Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about what if Naruto wasn't born in the Elemental Nations part 1. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content and comments for part 2. Do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. Naruto POV. Hell, the place where nightmares of every being comes alive. The world where demons roam freely and do as they please. Only with the rule of Yami, the god of hell himself rules with his army of legions of demons of all kinds. It is his presence alone that quells down the countless lesser demons from acting out foolishly. Hell is where all sinners are placed when found guilty by Kami's court. Rapists, murderers, child abusers, every sinner is brought there. No matter how much they protest to them being innocent, they are dragged by hands of hell, where they are forever tortured for an eternity, bound by the chains of hell with no hope of salvation. It is also where I reside. Heaven, hell's most hated realm. It is where the high and mighty deities of every god reside. Besides Yami, only he would come when a summoning of all gods have been announced. And that realm is ruled by the old gods, which they are all ruled upon by Kami herself. Though even she rules, the beings in heaven think they can get away with many things since they are the holy ones. Such arrogance and broad display of foolishness is quite pitiful among the pantheon deities of heaven. Then there is the third realm, or the third kingdom as some of the demons call it, Ninjenkai, the human world. It is there Kami's creations flourish and are watched over by heaven's watchful eyes. Or in some cases hells, for when there is a sinner they are dragged down here where they are tortured for their sins for an eternity. Though the humans are protected by heaven, they are the most hated creatures in hell. The demons, and even I, see them as nothing more than arrogant, despicable wastes of existence, and deserve nothing more than an eternity of pain and torture where they are beaten and eaten by the demons only to have their ODs regenerate, and go through the excruciating pain all over again. The flames of hell burn their flesh away and turn even their skeletons to ash, as their moans and echoes of anguish can echo throughout all of hell. The history in hell, though, is both quite informational and slightly amusing. Yami, the god of hell's own army, controls hell with rules that are certainly fit for hell. Now, one of these soldiers in Yami's army is a devil named Lucifer, a very rare breed type of devil with only a few in existence. Even they were wiped out from fear from other demons since they grew stronger with each passing battle. You could rarely tell if this person was a devil, for they'd look just like any other resident in hell, but when they transformed you would know. Oh yes, you would know alright. For when they transformed, 2 black wings would sprout from their backs, while a demonic spiked tail would sprout from their backside. Their whole body would soon be covered in a metal demonic armor, pure ebony black. They would take the form of a knight, only demonic in nature. Lucifer was one of these devils, and a very powerful one at that. Only a deity could overpower him. Lucifer had more power in his pinky than that so-called all-powerful Jubi had in its whole body. The man, at one point in time, betrayed Yami and left his army to make his own so he could challenge Yami and take over as the ruler of hell. That is but a little history of hell, for when Lucifer did this it shook hell to its core. War was brewing within our domain between Yami and Lucifer, and it would in result destroy our realm. That is around the time my parents were killed and I was the only one left alive. I was the only survivor of the attack upon our home. My parents were devils themselves, very powerful ones in their own right. I was pretty sure one of them could even face a legion of demons by themselves, but they both weren't up to par with Lucifer, that was for sure. They were both killed. My mother sacrificed herself to save me, while the attacker was a jealous devil that hated my mother with a passion since she was married to my father. Ever since that day, my one and only true purpose was to grow stronger than ever before, so I wouldn't end up being killed by someone of my own race. It may sound ludicrous, but I, a devil, wanted power, so much power at the time. And I got it. On my travels I encountered the one person I never thought I would. It was Lucifer, who had been at the time slaughtering a legion of Yami's forces, soon came upon me staring at me with a calculating eye. The devil had told me soon afterwards that he seen much potential in me. It was almost frightening. He, to my surprise at the time, offered to teach me, put me under his wing and command as one of his soldiers. I learned many things under his tutelage, hell, over the centuries of being in his service and gaining more control over my powers. I had learned and started to master many powers, the element of hellfire, darkness, and lastly demon magic. I didn't take much in the art, but to Lucifer's standards I was already a master at the art and known throughout hell for my skills in all 3 skills. Though more personally I took to being a more all-around fighter with a taste for close combat as well. I later on took to using a weapon of my choosing by Lucifer's advice, and I took it to heart. I took upon using a Nodachi. I was quickly able to get proficient in using the weapon, even passing Lucifer's expectations. Later on, centuries passed, and I grew stronger with each passing day. I never stopped training. I always got stronger fighting other demons. Serving under Lucifer as a fellow devil, I was soon feared by many in hell for not only my skills in fighting but my ruthless and merciless way of doing things, or of how I killed those that fought against me. I was said to be a born prodigy even by hell's standards in learning the ways of combat. I could come up with strategical plans on the fly, and learn spells in a day or a week where it would take others a year to. During my time as a soldier under Lucifer's service did I start to gain even more fame as a true nightmare for my enemies. I was proclaimed to be one of Hell's demon titans, the strongest rank a demon or devil could gain in Hell, for it makes you just under the rank of a god itself. I never really cared what rank I was given, though I just wanted to get stronger, and I did, but it was never enough for me. Only did I now find that, every day I got stronger, did Lucifer become nervous that I was growing too strong. He never expected that I would reach his own level after a millennium of studying under his wing. The devil at times thought I would become so strong that I would come to destroy him and take his power away. Lucifer was afraid of me. I knew this, but never did say anything. The man gave me training, the way I could gain more power. But Lucifer had a god complex, that much I knew. He was always thinking he was a god with his power, but I knew the man was losing it. The power had finally gotten to him, and soon he was engrossed in his power. His demonic instincts had overcome what common sense he had, and was soon a power-hungry abomination, a shadow of his former self. I was no better though back then. When I was a child I wanted power more than anything else. Even if I had to go to the extremes I would, but over the many years my ideals were changed. I no longer craved for power. It was now my ambition to fight Kami's forces and overthrow her rule and change it to something better or worse. I didn't care. All I knew was that this system had to change, for Kami herself had to be blind to not see how some of her own subordinates were going over her own rules and doing as they pleased. Like granting humans Kekkei Genkai or bloodlines? That was a major mistake, for the humans grew even more arrogant, believing themselves to be truly powerful. To have the ability to manipulate gravity or control the elements made them think they were above everyone else, even their own creators. The pathetic mortals have no idea what power is. I'm getting off track. What I was saying is that my ideal was to change the system. Though a few years later, did I notice something wrong. When I was out with my own army under my command, we had been ordered to take over one of Yami's key points, a fortress that has survived the passage of time since the beginning of it all. We won, yes, but it was soon after did I learn that I had been betrayed. By my own master. Lucifer came upon us. I was still tired after fighting one of Yami's generals. Lucifer betrayed me that day. He had attacked me, slaughtering my men as well. I didn't back down though. I attacked back, questioning him only to get the same response over and over. "You've grown too powerful, Naruto. I cannot have you killing me later on," was the response. I wasn't surprised though. The man was losing it. Though I did fight back, even with the wounds I had on that fateful day, I still was able to keep an equal footing with Lucifer. Our battle shook Hell itself. It made the realm tremble. Demons of all kinds flocked to see our titanic battle. Mountains were destroyed. The sea of blood was split in half under our clashes. It even gained the attention of Yami himself. We fought for 3 days. Even with my wounds, my godly stamina counterbalanced this. Our fight made even the lowest level of demons die from our Yuki level energies. The burnt ground itself cratered with each attack that was used. It was truly a battle between devils of our power and one fit for our titles of Hell's demon titans. But I lost. I knew I would actually. There was no way I could actually beat Lucifer that day with my wounds from fighting Yami's general. Though Lucifer didn't go unscathed either, he was battered and beaten just as I was. Only I was a bit worse off. As Lucifer was about to give the fatal blow, something happened. Something within me snapped. My hatred, anger, and betrayal rushed through me, making me able to dodge the killing blow. Though I had lost, I did leave the battle with a few parting words to my ex-master. "I swear, Lucifer, you have won this day, but rest assured you haven't seen the last of me, for you have no idea what you have done. I trusted you like a father, but you do this. I will kill you, maybe not now, but mark my words, I will tear out your heart and crush it before your very eyes." After this I fled the totally destroyed battleground, hiding myself away, nursing my wounds and getting stronger with each passing day. Only this time, I would uphold my declaration and I would kill Lucifer at any means. Over the years and fully healed, I hid myself away in the more urban cities of Hell. Getting stronger, faster, and broadening out my intelligence to other techniques of demon magic, hellfire, and darkness manipulation, mastering what I could and creating my own techniques and attacking both Yami and Lucifer's forces where I could, leaving them crippled, and to remind my former master that I was not dead, that I was out there biding my time to strike. On a few occasions I have battled Lucifer. Some of them I won, some of them were draws, and some of them I lost. Now though, after I was going back to my home after blowing up another legion of demons from Lucifer, but along the way of reaching my home something strange happened. Naruto POV over. Walking along the dirt road of Hell was a tall, regal-looking man. He stood at the height of 6 feet 2 inches and walked with an aura of death, yet with that of confidence in his own power. He wore a black shirt, which was covered by a crimson high-collared shirt with the top separated with the ends sticking straight up. It had black lines going down the middle of this collared shirt. Over this was a pitch black hooded cloak with it separated as well, showing his collared shirt. It had 2 chains hanging from the neck part of the cloak, the sleeves went all the way down to his wrists, where he also wore black combat gloves. There were designs upon his cloak, for on the 2 separated sides were the designs of flames with colors of red, purple, and a demonic green, all mixed and showing an ethereal flame-looking pattern. Below was black armor-integrated pants with also black plated boots. This man's appearance though would send many that knew him for his past reputation though running away in fear. For the man had pale skin, not the kind of death-like skin many demons had in hell, but a glowing kind of pale strange for any kind of residence in hell. He had the face fit for a god but was on the body of something from hell. He had demonic tribal markings of what looked to be curved horns. His face had lines going down his eyes showing the red demonic runes within. The man's eyes though were a malevolent purple, not near the violet shade but somewhere in between. There was a sinister feeling in Ho's eyes but also a hidden yet strange power in them. His hair was shockingly spiky in a shade of golden. His hair was long, very long, to be put up in a medium-sized spiky ponytail. Overall this man looked to be quite intimidating but also much more civil-looking than the bloodthirsty demons that roam about in hell. This man was Hellwing Naruto, demon titan of hell and hated enemy of Lucifer, his fellow devil. It had been countless millennia since Naruto battled with Lucifer, and ever since then the devil had been training for his inevitable fight with Lucifer. His reputation as the most ruthless yet merciless demon in hell still lived up to the name, as he had all but slaughtered countless of Lucifer's armies that he had sent to kill him. Not a single demon had laid a scratch on him, for none was up to par with his power. Only Lucifer was at equal footing with him, and Lucifer knew this. As his feet hit the ground, the legendary devil suddenly felt a pull on his consciousness and frowned. What the? A summoning? TSK not in the mood for a pathetic mortal at the moment. With that, Naruto erased the pull on his body, not knowing how irritating the next few months would be. 5 months later. It had been 5 months since the attempt on summoning Naruto, and ever since he had cancelled the first attempt more summons have come in more than ever, making Naruto quite annoyed, even more so with how much more frequent they had gotten. This made the devil greatly annoyed at the fact how this human was so stubborn in summoning. You see, humans sometimes have the ability to call forth a demon from hell for their services, only with them to provide a trade for their services. Now in the ranks of demon, the higher the rank the greater price for the demon's services is. Naruto, being the most high-level demon side by side with Lucifer, made the price for summoning him to greatest of all. Grr, this is getting annoying, just need to find out what this human wants before I kill him or her, he said with an annoyed growl. So letting the pull guide him, Naruto was pulled into the air by a black portal. Not knowing of this event will change his demonic immortal life forever. Kanahegakure Hokage Monument. Upon the mountain newly named as the Hokage Monument, was a woman whom was dressed in formal clothing with her red hair tied in a bun. Her face was by human standards the face of a goddess, as was her whole body. Her milky white skin glowed in the midnight sky, and her violet eyes seemed almost unworldly if someone gazed into them, yet, as of now, they held a deep hatred and anger at something or someone. She was wearing a royal-looking kimono with swirls for some kind designed all over overall, giving her a very royal former appearance. This woman was Uzumaki Mido, heir to the Uzumaki clan and wife to the Shodaime Hokage Hashirama Senju. Right now, at the moment, her eyes were glaring at the stone face of Hashirama with pure murder in her deep violet eyes. Her fists were clenched so tight blood was dripping from her knuckles, which were pale white due to the intensity of how hard she was clenching her fists. However, she heard the sound /d of swirling and the cackling of electricity, causing her to turn around, and upon looking over at the summoning circle, her eyes gleamed in satisfaction as a smile crossed her face when she saw the black swirling portal start to slowly open up. Thank goodness, someone answered my call, she uttered as the portal opened fully before she saw something come out of the portal. As it did, her breath hitched in her throat as she looked at the demonic yet godly handsome man before her. A blush spread across her face as she looked over his body with wide eyes, that is, until his eyes snapped open, making her stiffen from the sinister look in his purple malevolent eyes. By looking at his very body, no, just by being in his presence in just a few seconds, Mido felt the hairs on the back of her neck stand straight up and every fiber of her being screamed at her to run away. But she couldn't, not for the fact her legs were paralyzed in fear, but the fact she had a reason for summoning one such as he to her realm. Yet the aura of this man caused all her senses to go haywire and her soul to quiver in terror before this man's piercing purple orbs. Naruto himself raised a mental eyebrow at what he was seeing. The human before him was most definitely strange, for first of all, she, unlike many other humans, hadn't fallen to their knees in fear or ran away like cowards. Second of all, he had to admit the mortal woman was quite the beauty even to demon standards, and that said a lot. Last of all, he could sense the Yuki of the Kyubi no Kitsune within her, making him snort a bit on the inside. That would mean she was the Jinchuriki of that little fox then? Bijou and hell were nothing but a mockery to their fellow demons, since they were enslaved by humans for so long, leashed by them like pets or used as weapon to do their bidding. Truly his was a pathetic life to be a bijou, even worse a Jinchuriki as well, for he knew how much humans despised what they didn't understand or couldn't control for themselves. Mentally he let out a small smirk when he felt the Kyuubi's fear. It was practically using this human as a catalyst to release its fear to show him it was submissive in his presence. "Why have you called me here, mortal?" he said with a grunt of irritation. Mito immediately bowed, making Naruto raise an eyebrow a bit. Usually humans would demand demons for something, not caring they were in the presence of a being that could kill them without a second thought. But this one, she was different. She was respective and knew when in the presence of some that of a much higher level of power than her to be respectful. "I'm sorry for my frequent summons, your lordship, but I was in desperate need of help and I needed help by any means necessary. Even if it meant summoning a demon," she said in a respectful tone. Hearing this, Naruto spoke. "I see, and do you by chance know of what the exchange is for summoning a demon?" Only for her to look at him in confusion, making him internally growl in annoyance. "You know. All I know is that it's a last resort technique only meant for the Uzumakis. The other pieces of the information has been lost for centuries since it was written by the Rikudo Sennin himself." This made Naruto give a small cold chuckle of amusement. The Rikudo Sennin, that wretched pathetic child? Haha, what a pitiful human he was. The man by all rights was a demon made human, since he was the one to bring upon the shinobi era along with its wars and bijou. The man was a laughingstock in hell and is still locked all the way in the 9th level of hell for betraying Kami's wishes. "I see, then let me explain to you, human, the rules for this summoning. For you see, we demons don't do things for free. First is that when you want something done, we want something in equal value for exchange. Now the higher the demon you summon, the higher the price for the exchange is. For example, if you summoned a low-class demon, then your exchange for its service is a minimum." Mito took this all in with a frown, but accepting it anyway. "Then by chance what class are you?" Only for Naruto to give her a motionless gaze before speaking in a monotone fashion laced with a small sense of amusement. "I'm the highest level a demon could ever be. I'm a demon titan," he said, getting a shocked look from her before she remembered why she had exactly summoned him. The acceptance was back in her eyes just as quickly as it was gone. This made Naruto raise an eyebrow in curiosity. "By chance, mortal, what is it you want me to do?" Which she just growled a bit before looking at him with eyes that held so much anger and hatred it honestly surprised him a mortal could have such amount of hatred, but there was also an equal amount of desperation and pleading in her violet orbs. "I need your help. My husband has used a Uzumaki Fuinjutsu upon me, making me look as if I was in love with him." The Fuinjutsu was actually passed down from a demon that specialized in demon magic, which evolved into this particular seal. It needs the blood of the user and makes the target lose all sense of rationality, and makes them drones and follows every order the user commands. The bastard has been using our arranged marriage as a way for Konoha to use my clan by me as the link. This got Naruto's attention right away. If there was one thing nobody knew about Naruto, it was that he had a slight protective sense of women. He still remembers how his father protected his mother by so many demons from when they wanted to take her away. Plus it was a surprise that this human was using such a seal, but there you go, another human with a power-hungry complex using others for their own needs, such a fine example of why humanity in general was a despicable race. Shaking his head, Naruto spoke with a bit more authority yet a slight protectiveness in his voice. "I see, and what is it exactly you want me to do?" Only for Mito, this mortal actually kneeled before him, her head touching the ground in complete obedience in the form of the Dajiza position. Her voice struck true, though as quiet as it was. The begging and desperation in her voice was there. "I need you to remove these seals upon me and to kill Hashirama. He has by all rights abused the treaty between my clan and Konoha, and I want his death, paying the price for it." This made Naruto have a twitch to his lips. This woman was interesting. She was by all means ready to do anything so this man that has tricked her killed. "Ah, I see, the removal of those seals and of the death of this human. This can be done, but the price is very steep." Making her look at him in acceptance, not really caring what price would be needed for this. "It couldn't be that bad. Right? I don't care what the price is as long as that man pays for his crimes against not only me but my clan as well." Making Naruto nod. "Very well then, the price is your soul," making her eyes go wide in horror. Her soul? That was the price of the deal. Looking up at the being she summoned, she spoke in a shaky tone. "And my soul? Is there anything else I can offer?" This made Naruto frown before closing his eyes and thought. On one hand, he could just say no and have her take the offer or not, but something in him was telling him to give her another choice. It was like an irritating flea that won't quite biting you. That's when he realized the only other option. Looking upon her pleading form, he spoke. "Well, there is the other option. Instead of the price of your soul, you would have to sacrifice your humanity, meaning, on the day of your death I would be there to take your soul and place it into a demon body, and you would have to be my slave for an eternity from there on. It is your choice, mortal." His tone saying it broke all arguments, knowing he wouldn't make any other choices. Mito frowned while thinking real hard on this. She had two choices: to either give up her soul where it would most definitely be tortured in the hell for summoning a demon, or take the second option where she was already a slave to Hashirama, which and that was bad enough where he was abusive to her, but nothing more than that. But to become a demon and a slave to this devil? She honestly thought it could be better if the sight of him being neutral about her while Hashirama was more of a liar and more of an aggressive person. Though the slight protective aura she sensed from him made her feel so comfortable around him, it confused her. Really, she had only met this being once, and already she was more comfortable around him than any other person. Thinking of her decisions, since there was no other option. The action of summoning a demon was a ticket straight to hell. Heaven was closed off from you forevermore. I accept as long as that bastard pays for what he has done. Making Naruto's eyes widen a bit before returning to normal now while he remained impassive on the outside. On the inside he was thinking on how this mortal woman was getting much more interesting in his eyes. She is willing to become a demon and serve me for an eternity. All to have this man killed and those seals taken off her. I'm starting to like this one. I see very well, then the deal is accepted, making her smile with a big grin. Thank you, your lordship, only for him to wave it off with an impassive face. No lordship, anyway show me these seals of yours, making her blush a bit remembering exactly where they were. Shakily she grabbed her kimono and opened it up slightly where her stomach was. It showed even a little bit how toned her stomach was and how serious she took her training. Mentally nodding that she was a serious person when it came to fighting, he'd have to keep that in mind. Channel your chakra, in which she did before a Fuinjutsu seal appeared over her navel, showing it was the same seal holding the Kyubi no Kitsune. That is before a second layered seal appeared over the seal, making her open up her kimono a bit more to her embarrassment. Naruto eyed the seal with his hand running over the seal. This included physical touch, which made Mito shiver at his touch. Closing his eyes in concentration, Naruto missed the slight blush on Mito's face, which grew every second as his hand kept studying the seal. Mito herself had to bite back a moan when his hand ran over her delicate soft skin, since she had never been touched by a man before, since Hashirama has only kissed her to signify the wedding. Naruto's eyes snapped open before a dark purple aura covered the hand upon Mito's stomach. First the seals. Akuma no Yona Majiku, Hatsubai. Demon magic. Release. Then the purple yukai left Naruto's hand and spread all over the enslavement seal, and before Mito's amazement started to corrode the seal before it flaked off like dried paint and turning to dust in the wind. Seeing the seal completely taken off her almost made Mito break down in joy, knowing she was almost free from Hashirama's enslavement. Thank you, only for Naruto to nod before speaking. Now the second, where is this Hashirama Senju? She pointed over the monument, and at the large compound in the forest. Seeing this, Naruto nodded before Tomito's shock picked her before heaving her over his shoulder. What are you doing? She asked with a blush rising to her face at what her lord was gonna do. She was blushing for she could feel Naruto's muscles through his clothing, and she honestly could say she hadn't felt such a thing before. They were hard as solid steel. We're gonna get to the compound, what did you think? And before Mito could retort, Naruto's body gave off a purplish glow before teleporting away, leaving a purple glow of where he was before it to vanish in the air. Arriving at the compound, Naruto dropped onto the roof with Mito on his shoulder, while Uzumaki was gaping at how they just moved from one place to another, and in such speed as well. Alright, now tell me where Hashirama's room is located, to which she pointed at the building at the far corner in the west where the main part of the compound was. Jumping over the rooftop silently, they landed on the ground without a sound. With that, Naruto silently set Mito down with her shaky legs barely holding her up, still shocked at how Naruto teleported from one place to another. Follow me, I want you to witness my end of the bargain so you would know I tell the truth of his death. She quickly nodded, and with they entered the building, disabling all traps without a sound. Once inside, Naruto saw the sleeping form of Hashirama, his head being the only thing visible, for the rest of his body was covered by the blankets. Seeing his target in sight, Naruto moved quickly as Mito followed in, silently watching with great content, knowing Hashirama was gonna get his just rewards. Appearing over Hashirama's sleeping body, Naruto placed his hand over the man's head before speaking quietly. Akuma no Yona Majiku, Shinshoku Surapu, demon magic, eroding sleep. Right then a greenish aura covered Naruto's hand before placing it on Hashirama's hand, making the man's eyes snap open in shock, but before he could even let out a word, Naruto's other hand suddenly slapped onto his mouth. As the spell took its effect quickly, Mito watched in a sense of fascination as Hashirama's body started to let out a green-filled smoke, while his face started to wrinkle and dry up as his eyes slowly, ever so slowly, looked at her with anger and hate before they melted in a greenish liquid, as did the rest of his body, leaving only his skeleton remaining. Wow, she said in amazement as Naruto stood up before walking over to Mito. Seeing him coming, she quickly bowed, knowing he had helped her more than anyone else has in just a few minutes. Seeing this, Naruto tapped her shoulder, making her look up only for Naruto to speak. Now it's your turn, please show me your right shoulder. She did, to her confusion, pulled her kimono down a bit, showing her unblemished pale-skinned shoulder. Naruto then gathered his yukai into his index finger before placing it onto her shoulder. She bit back a scream from the burning sensation as Naruto pulled his finger back to show the symbol of Slave of Hellwing before it disappeared into her skin. She looked up confused a bit, only for him to turn around and speak as the dark portal swirled around his feet. That symbol shows that you are my slave. When your times comes I will know, and I will be there to take your soul with me. Till then, mortal, enjoy your last few years of your human life. To which she just nodded with a tearful smile on her face. Despite being branded with a slave mark, she was all too happy to be the slave of the very person that saved her from the nightmare of Hashirama. May I know your name before you go? To which Naruto just looked over his shoulder as the dark portal was midway of opening. Yes, my name is Naruto Hellwing. Naruto remember it well, he said with a ghost of a smile before the portal slowly took his form into portal, taking him back to hell. Mito just nodded, admiration shining in her eyes. I will forever, Naruto-sama, and with that Naruto's body was fully enveloped in the portal, separating master and slave for the next few years. Hell. Dropping from the air, he landed in a crouch before standing back up. Looking up into the portal, Naruto watched it fully close up before letting out a small chuckle which to many would have sent demons into a state of pure fear from the sinister feel to it. Heh, that woman is quite interesting for a mortal, wonder how she'll be as a demon. With that, the devil continued his travel back to his residence, awaiting the next few years for his newest slave's death. Only for her rebirth into something new. Only did Naruto not know that his immortal life become very hectic in the coming centuries. 1 millennium later, hell with Naruto. It had been a millennium in hell since Naruto's summoning from Mito, and of his help with her, and also of his branding her as his slave. Ever since then, as he awaited for her death, Naruto had been busy with attacking Lucifer's armies as well as Yami's own, since he had gotten an invitation to become one of Yami's generals. Predictably, Yami didn't like his rejection to become one of his generals and put out a full warrant for his head. Ever since then, he had been killing off any and all demons or armies both Lucifer or Yami had sent after him, while making his power go up with each battle. He knew he was strong, sure, but so was Lucifer. Since he was a devil as well, he would have gotten stronger too. His fame and reputation got much more known throughout hell, for not only his power but his deeds of fighting both Lucifer and Yami on both sides. It was quite legendary in itself that one being in hell could fight two other enemies' forces alone. His deeds and actions have even reached heaven itself by Yami's words to his fellow deities, but none did anything really, for hell was demons' realm where the unholy beings reside. The legendary devil hadn't changed since then, and was right now fighting another legion of demons from Lucifer. Only this one was much more in quantity. Jumping over another demon, Naruto stabbed another behind him by his hand before pulling it out along with the brain of the demon, before shoving the brain into the mouth of another before ripping its head off, spraying blood all over the blood-soaked ground. Looking behind him, Naruto spun around, delivering a bone-shattering punch to another demon's ribcage, shattering it like a mirror. Right then he grabbed the demon by the face, lifted him off the ground before crushing his skull like a balloon. Pointing his hand toward the oncoming horde of demons, Naruto spoke. Haru, Funchatsupira, Hellfire, Erupting Pillar, he stated calmly before circling around the horde of demons was a crimson flame with violet and black flames mixed in. To their confusion, it circled them completely, and before they knew it, a giant pillar of hellfire erupting beneath them, incinerating them completely. Flesh, muscle, bone, and even the ash was burned away, leaving nothing but a scorched ground with flickers of the fire left over. Turning around once more, Naruto swept his arm to 20 more demons before speaking. Bakuhatsu no Yamidama, exploding darkness sphere, before a pure black sphere formed in Naruto's hand before it shot right into the demons before exploding in an orb of darkness, the energy destroying the demons completely from the inside. Naruto ignored their screams or the many body around him of the demons. Lucifer, truly you are a fool. These demons are so much weaker than the another ones. Never could train your other lesser subordinates right. With a shake of his head, Naruto walked away without a single scratch or a stain of blood upon him. Behind him was numerous to countless bodies of dead demons. The flames of hellfire burned around the blood-soaked battlefield. Naruto's sinister purple eyes glowed in the light of the flames. Getting a few yards away, Naruto suddenly felt a pull upon him before he looked up at the pitch-black clouds of hell with recognition in his eyes. Seems it is time. Her death has come. With that, Naruto snapped his fingers before the dark portal appeared in front of him. Sighing, he walked through, knowing he was about to get an addition to his life. Ninjenkai Kanahigakurum of Uzumaki Mito. Appearing in a barely decorated room, Naruto looked around before setting his sights upon the old wrinkled body of Uzumaki Mito. He knew it was her, for he could sense the mark he gave her all those years ago rapidly release his yukai in his appearance. That's when he saw her blue glowing soul coming out of her body. When it fully did, it showed her form from when he first met her. The seal must have branded her young form at the time into her soul, tying her to be young looking for all time. Opening her eyes, Mito looked around herself before looking on her bed. That's when she saw her dead old body. Her eyes widened before they remembered what happened. She had finally died at old age of being 120. The Uzumaki longevity took its toll upon her greatly. She had lived up for a century and 20 years. Mito, it is time, she heard looking around the room. Her eyes widened briefly before they gained a full look of recognition, and another look in her eyes flickered in before that was quickly hidden. Oh, Naruto-sama, I guess it is time then, which the devil nodded. Sighing, very well, I am ready. Nodding at this, Naruto went to her dead body and picked it gently, making her soul raise an eyebrow in question. Seeing this, he spoke. In order for you to become a demon, I need your human body for the ritual, he said, and with a snap the dark twisting portal opened up with Naruto walking directly to it. Looking back though, he saw Mito grabbing something before walking toward him. Scrutinizing his gaze, he saw it as an old picture frame. From what he could see, it was Mito in her human old body, smiling happily with a young little long-haired redhead in her arms, smiling as well, her violet eyes the same shade as her own, just much deeper with full of life. Sorry, Naruto-sama. I was just getting something personal. Thank you for giving me the time to get this, she said gratefully. He just nodded before walking through the portal, her following without a second thought. Knowing her new life as Naruto's slave had just begun. Hell. Walking out of the dark portal, Naruto looked over his shoulder and saw the soul form of Uzumaki Mito looking around in awe, yet a little nervousness. Understandable, after all, humans usually just get tortured here beyond reason. But she was a slave, she was going to be living in this realm from now on. He could already feel the surrounding yukai gather at her soul, so acting quickly he spoke. Mito, come, we must leave, which she just nodded a bit, feeling a weird energy within her building up similar to how the Kyuubi's was, but much more potent. She followed him after a while, and the energy seemed to disappear and was replaced with the yukai flowing from Naruto. Ano, Naruto-sama, how well does this ritual by chance work? Which he just closed his eyes before kneeling on the ground. Well, first off, your body needs to be young so your soul can be perfectly fit, since you look the same when I met you. This made her look at with confusion in her eyes. How would you make my body be young again? Only for Naruto to place his hand upon Mito's human body before he spoke. Akuma no Yona Majiku, Renewuru, Demon Magic, Renewal. With that, Mito watched as her body glowed white before it dimmed, showing to her shock newly young body again, all the same as she remembered it when she first met Naruto. It requires the soul, in this case you, and your dead body, while the yukai in hell gathers into the body, making you into a demon. Now get into the circle when I make it, she nodded, following her master's order without question. Very well then, and nicking his finger, drawing a bit of blood, he drew a 6-foot circle with his blood before placing Mito's human body in the circle, before he drew a few intricate symbols all connecting to her body. Mito watched carefully before she heard him speak. Now get into the body, to which she did and pushed herself back into her body. Naruto then slammed his hands on the circle, shouting, Akuma Majiku, Gishiki wa, Tamashi to Nikudai Oketsugo Suru, Demon Magic, Ritual, Combined Soul and Body. In a flash of light blinding Naruto slightly. When the light dimmed, Naruto rose an eyebrow in slight surprise. It wasn't that Mito looked exactly the same from when he first met her, but that she looked more, what's the word he was looking for? Changed, perhaps. Either way, she looked much more beautiful than she did before. She didn't wear the same clothing she wore when she first met him, but now just a simple black kimono with crimson trim around the edges. Her bust was much bigger than what it was before, maybe DD cup. Her skin was the same glowing porcelain that it was before when she was a human. Her eyes were the same and all, but what really got Naruto's attention was that the yukai flowing through her felt the same as his own. That meant only one thing. Wow, I feel so different even though I don't look all that changed. Well, except the breasts, that was a surprise, she added mentally, looking down at her bust. You are actually, when we made that deal, you sacrificed your humanity and my slave. But what demon you became, I'm quite surprised at. You're a devil just like I am. It must be because of my yukai flowed into you when I came to get you. My energy must have channeled slowly into you, making her go wide-eyed for a moment before they returned to normal. I see, then how do I tell if I become this devil as you say? Which Naruto just closed his eyes with a sigh. We devils have a transformation that mark us for what we are. You'll learn to gain yours just as I did. Now come, you have training to do. I won't have a weak slave. I will be teaching you from here on out about the techniques we use here in hell. And with a turn he started walking away with her, looking at his back with a soft smile. Thank you, Naruto-sama, as she felt a tug in her stomach as she looked upon the form of her new master. She quickly followed him, knowing her new life would be quite interesting from now on. Millenniums later, thousands of years later, hell. It's been millenniums since Naruto gained his slave, the woman now Devil Uzumaki Mito, and ever since then he had been training her and himself over the countless years. He couldn't let her walk around with him until she was able to fend for herself, so he had, to her surprise, dedicated most of his time to train her in the 3 main abilities of hell and in her devil abilities. He had of course come out of hiding a few times to wipe out an army or 2 from Lucifer or Yami, so the 2 didn't think he had given up. The results were, for the better word, surprising, since Mito had proven to be a great student under his tutelage. She was more of a long-range fighter than anything, specializing in demon magic and darkness abilities, but also her Fuinjutsu. She took those abilities with her from Ninjenkai and studied with adding them and demon magic together. Of course, she wasn't up to standard fighting an army of angels from heaven, but is able to fend for herself greatly against demons of all kinds. Though on Lucifer's level she was nowhere near that level yet, she still needed much training before that. She had gained her transformation of becoming a true devil, but understandably she was shaken at first at her appearance, but with the reassurance from Naruto and of how to change back, she quickly learned how to. Overall, Naruto could say she was quite the learner, how maybe a genius when learning how to fight. Now he himself didn't slack up either. He had been training by fighting armies of Lucifer and Yami while also sparring with Mito. Even though she wasn't nowhere near his level, it was good to fight one of your own kind. Over the years though, for Naruto, things with him and Mito have been strange. For he wasn't all cold-hearted to her, even if she was a former mortal, since she was different from the rest of those arrogant fools. He knew this, for she was highly respectful and obedient towards him. For he was her master, he was also her teacher and protector as well. For when word got out that Naruto had a slave, many demons flocked to see who it was, and when they saw the divine beauty that was Mito, many tried to take her away, which resulted in many getting slaughtered or torn limb from limb by Naruto, since she wasn't strong enough for a few of those demons. Hell, a demon titan by the name of Gilgamesh challenged Naruto for the right of Mito. This of course irritated the superpowered devil, and to Mito's amazement, Naruto single-handedly in under 3 minutes took down the draconic demon. A demon that held the same rank as his own. This of course had news spread all across hell like a demonic wildfire. Once many learned that Naruto took down a demon titan, but also Gilgamesh, one of the most powerful demons in hell, in only under 3 minutes. Ever since then, Mito had been at his side much more than a slave is supposed to be. Maybe it was that he reacted so violently to how the demons were wanting her. Maybe it was that she felt so protected around him. She honestly didn't know what she felt, but there was one time that during one of their sparring sessions did she see a side of her master that she rarely ever saw. Flashback. Panting on the ground was Mito Uzumaki, slave of Hellwing Naruto, and right now she was dead tired after the whole day training session her master had brought her out to. She never complained though, for she felt she was getting strong each day they sparred. Right now sweat was running down her face, with her usual buns still there. Littered all around the ground was craters from demon magic to darkness attacks she had been practicing. Naruto himself was standing beside her with an approving look in his eyes, his arms crossed over his chest. His eyes scanned the ground before looking down at his slave. She was reasonably enough tired, no, exhausted was the better word. She had to fight him with him using 20% of his power. And even then he didn't need to transform, unlike how she had to. Nodding in approval, Naruto turned away before speaking. Your training is done for the day, Mito. Go rest, you've earned it, with some approval in his tone, which made her feel so warm. She always felt that way when she got his approval on how she trained. He was always there watching to make sure she needed help or to stop any malfunctions with her attacks. It was hard to earn his praise, but she has on every session of training with him. Thank you, Naruto-sama. I shall go rest, I really need it, he before she got up on her wobbly legs before trying to walk back at the house, only for her to fall to a knee in exhaustion. Panting greatly, she felt a bit ashamed by falling before her master. That's when she heard footsteps coming to her. That's when she felt herself being lifted up, with her master supporting her with his having her right arm over his shoulder, and his other arm supporting her other side. She of course blushed a bit from the contact, but hid it well. Naruto-sama, what are you doing? She asked, confused, since her master had never really shown this kind of support before. He was there to help in her training, but she had always needed to walk back to the house to rest. But this time she felt too exhausted to even move a finger. Naruto closed his eyes before speaking. You're too exhausted to move, Mito, I can see this. I shall help you to your room where you can rest, and with that she nodded a bit before leaning her head a bit on his shoulder, as he led her back to her room. Once they entered, Naruto unfolded the covers and sheet before laying her down slowly, and gently, she mentally added, before covering her up. After this, he pulled the needle, holding her hair up in a bun, letting it fall upon her back, showing her long straight maroon hair. There was an emotion that flickered in his eyes when he did this, but she didn't see it. She was too surprised at the fact he was putting her to bed to even speak. Turning away, Naruto looked over his shoulder. You did exceptional today, Mito. Get some rest, you've earned it, before closing the door, leaving his slave to think about his attitude just now. The look in his eyes were a little bit softer than they were before. Why is that? Naruto-sama is a devil, a demon titan, and has lived countless eons, and yet he looks so gentle with me, it's so confusing. With that, she let her eyes close, thinking about the small changes happening with her master. The next day, as Mito came out of room from getting her rest, she was still putting up her hair in her usual bun, only to see her master standing on the balcony overlooking hell. Walking up to him, she heard him speak. I see you're awake, Mito. That is good. Your training will resume later today. Be ready, he said with his usual indifference. She knew. Looking at him, she nodded, thinking what she saw yesterday was but a dream. Very well, Naruto-sama, I'll go get ready, and with that she turned around and began to walk back. Oh, and Mito making her turn around a bit in question. Yes? Curious to what her master was wanting to say. You look better without the bun. It makes you more beautiful, he said, still looking over the balcony. So he never saw the wide-eyed look he was getting from her. The Uzumaki woman was staring at her master in complete shock. Not once has he ever complimented her before. She never really thought he would do such a thing, or even expected it of him. But after realization kicked in, a blush on great proportions came upon her face as her hands trembled with the needle that would put her hair in the bun before she got herself under control. Though a big smile stretched her beautiful features showed on her face as she spoke. TT, thank you, and Naruto-sama, she said before he waved her off, making her stumble back into the house to get herself ready for the next part of her training. Though upon Naruto's own face was a small ghost of a smile as well. Flashback end. Ever since then, she never put her hair in the bun again, letting her hair grow out, making it very long, touching her lower back with two bangs framing her face, making her so much more entrancing that some mistook her for a succubus. It seemed to please her master, and that was all she cared for. Walking upon the dirt road of hell, Naruto along with Mito were on their way to attack another legion of demons, since Lucifer had been getting much more desperate to kill Naruto by any means over the years, even by one day sending the three-headed dog called Cerberus, Hell's Gate Guardian. This of course made Naruto quite annoyed, and it didn't make it better that on that same day countless other demons were flocking all over Mito, with him killing each and every one. So it was bad for the demonic dog that it picked on the wrong day to piss off Naruto. That is the same day Cerberus was literally neutered by Naruto before sent flying across hell and into Lucifer's castle. Naruto was irritated that day and made an example out of the Guardian of Hell's Gates to show he was not to be annoyed. That's when Naruto felt a tug. It was the same tug he felt when Mito first summoned him. This made him frown, which Mito caught. Naruto-sama, is something wrong? Worried since he has never shown this reaction before, it was like something was irritating him more than those pesky demons that flocked to her. The look in his eyes showed great annoyance as well. No, it's just a summoning, I guess I'll take it. Mito, come, let us go see what this mortal has summoned us for before I kill it for annoying me, he said with a dark look in his eyes that sent a shiver down Mito's spine. A swirling dark portal opened up above them, which made them float right into one, just plain irritated at the summoning, and Mito curious to who had such a summoning for the demons. Konohagakure Forest of Death. Standing upon the great forest of death was a woman, a very beautiful woman who looked to be the age of 22, her whole appearance that by all standards looked like a goddess made flesh. Her long maroon hair that touched her legs with two bangs framing her heart-shaped face, making it look completely angelic. Her eyes were that of a deep violet with an inner hatred and anger in them that of which would make any low-willed person fall to their knees or outright pass out. Her pale porcelain skin shined greatly in the dark forest with the moonlight casting down upon the as she stood. Her arms trembled while her knuckles were popping as blood dripped from her hands. Her teeth were clenched so hard they could break, though the swollen belly showed that the woman was pregnant, and in her later months. This woman was Uzumaki Kushina, last remaining Uzumaki and wife of Namikaze Minato. Right now the woman was standing in front of the same summoning seal that her old friend and her role model Uzumaki Mito gave her just in case something truly horrible happened. She was given this to her, and was warned to be as a last resort. Kid, I'm telling you, you had no other choice. Besides, with your luck you might just summon a demon more honorable than the ones I've seen in my time. I know, Akemi-chan, but Mito-sama always told me when I was a child that to use this summoning was a ticket straight to hell. I worry for my unborn child. What would she do without me here? I don't trust that bastard Minato, and most assuredly Hiruzen. I trust no one in the leaf at all, only you. I know, kid, I know, but this is the best way to make sure your daughter has a good life when she is born. That human, Namikaze, needs to die for his sins. Heck, with your luck you may summon the same demon Mito-chan summoned, Akemi muttered faintly, but Kushina caught it and knew what she was talking about. Yeah, I'm kind of hoping if it is, though it's a very slim chance. You've told me about this demon before, I just hope it's someone like him, and not some distrusting demon. That's when she felt the sudden pulse of Yukai before below the summoning circle a dark portal started to open up, only this time it was opening up for 2 people from the size. Though when it fully opened and the first person to walk out made Kushina voluntarily blush madly at the appearance of the Adonis of a man before her. Oh Kami, that's him, Kit. That's the very demon that helped Mito-chan. Your luck is great, Kit. By God, he looks a little like that bastard Minato, but only the hair, and even that is but a little resemblance. Everything else about him is. That's when the second person came out. This made both Kushina and Akemi gasp in shock, for it was her friend from when she was a child. Uzumaki Mito, and she was much more beautiful than she saw in the pictures when she was younger. Her hair was longer, not done in her usual bun, it reached to her lower back. Her clothing though was much more different though. From the royal-looking kimono she used to wear was a now battle-fitted kimono, crimson in color with black trimmed edges. Flame designs littered all over the kimono, with the Yuzugakure clan symbol etched onto her back, only with flames circling it like a ring of fire protecting it. Kushina noticed her aura though. She walked with confidence and power that most couldn't believe, with only the man in front of her knowing. She carried herself greatly, making her slightly wish she had that kind of confidence at the moment. But she really had no other choice at the moment. Gasping, Mito looked upon the form of Uzumaki Kushina with shock in her eyes. Naruto saw this and raised an eyebrow. Mito, is something wrong? Making her shake her head a bit before speaking with a big smile on her face. No, nothing's wrong at all, this is just the little girl I told you about. You know, the one in the picture. This made a slight recognition come into his eyes along with a little surprise. This woman, which almost looked like an exact replica of Mito, was that exuberant little child. Kushina heard the conversation and spoke. And Mito-sama? What are you doing here? ITT thought you died? Shaken at seeing her ancestor before her, which was supposed to be dead. Mito nodded, but Naruto spoke first. Mito, you can explain later. I would like to know why you summoned me, mortal. To which Kushina remembered exactly why she did and scowled. Namikaze somehow got into the Shodame's jutsu library and found a certain Fuinjutsu, which was originally the Uzumaki clan's forbidden Fuinjutsu. It was the enslavement seal he put upon me, making Mito grit her teeth in anger remembering that accursed Fuinjutsu, while Naruto frowned seeing how similar this situation was turning out to be. I see, and when did you find out about this exactly? I can see your pregnancy would mean it hasn't been too long? To which she looked down at her swollen belly from anger to complete love as she rubbed it gently with a soft smile. This may have resulted in this, but I would love this child forever. I found out about this 2 weeks ago, when I was completely out of chakra. The seal appeared on me as my chakra was returning back to me over the day. Once I was able to recognize it and find the seals in Minato's room, I went with the only way to make sure he paid for what he has done. Even with whatever the consequences were for this, making Mito look down sadly, while Naruto's own eyes gained a slight solemn look before they fixated upon the slight bruise around her wrist. Mortal, where did you get that bruise from exactly? He asked, his eyes completely fixated upon her wrist. Mito looked at the wound as well and scowled, while Kushina looked at it with a glare. Namikaze, he tried to hurt me again, but I got away in time. But I did get this before I left. This made Naruto freeze in his tracks before he tightened his fists, making them pop a bit before speaking. I see, I'm guessing you are wanting these seals off then? To which she nodded immediately, along with her clenching her fists together. Yes, and I want you to do one more thing for me, kill Namikaze Minato, that is all I ask of you. To which Naruto just nodded with a slight look on anxiety of getting to murder this wretched piece of filth. Mito, though, remembered those exact words since she too spoke them, to have Hashirama killed, and knew the price for it. It wasn't a bad price, but for Kushina it would be bad. I see, do you know the price of the exchange? To which she nodded hesitantly. Why yes, when I use the summoning my entrance to hell is assured, but also you are to take my soul in exchange for killing another human, she said while looking down at her swollen belly where her unborn daughter slept. Naruto nodded, knowing she knew this from Mito, since the woman must have written down the rules for her to know for future reference. Good, you know then, before Mito interjected. Wait. Naruto-sama, I ask of you for something important. I know it's asking a lot, I know, but please will you give her the choice you gave me? Which made Naruto frown before he closed his eyes and thought, while Kushina looked at her curiously. There was another choice to this double-edged summoning? It is her decision. If she accepts, I will allow it. To which Mito grinned widely while Kushina tilted her head in confusion. You Amano, what's the second choice, if I may ask? She asked nervously. Naruto looked at her out of the corner of his eyes and spoke. It was the choice of sacrificing your humanity, and you becoming my slave. It was the very same one I gave Mito Uzumaki here. This made Kushina reel back a bit, sacrificing her humanity? Becoming a slave? She was already a slave to Namikaze and a tool for Konoha. She didn't want to be a slave again under an abusive being. Mito, seeing her hesitance, looked at Naruto with a bit of pleading in her eyes. Naruto saw this and groaned a bit before nodding. Smiling in thanks, she walked over to the trembling form of Kushina and kneeled before her. Kushi-chan, look at me please? Kushina looked at her curiously, as she hugged her swollen belly for a type of comfort. I know this choice may seem bad at first, but Naruto-sama is actually a great person once you get to know him. The idea of sacrificing your humanity may seem bad also, but I got to say it's better being a demon than a human, she said with a cheeky grin. Kushina blinked at her, once, twice, 3 times before speaking. See, can Naruto truly get rid of my nightmare? Can he get rid of my enslavement to Namikaze and let me have the time I want with my unborn child? If I can, that is all I would truly want. Mito just smiled reassuringly before speaking. Of course he can, he did the same for me. How do you think that bastard Hashirama was killed, HM? She said amusingly. This made her eyes widen before looking at Naruto's form, his piercing purple eyes staring at her with a look that looked right into her very soul. Deciding on what to do, she finally decided, I accept, Naruto-sama, please get rid of my curse, get rid of my enslavement, and kill Namikaze Minato. Yelling desperately, hoping this devil, this being, would help her. The pain she felt after so many years coming out of her like a volcano. Seeing the woman in such a state made Naruto's purple orbs flare briefly in anger a bit before he spoke. Very well then, the deal is struck now, Mito. Have her lay down where I can see the seal. If I'm guessing where it is, then she needs to lay down. To which Mito nodded, helping Kushina up a bit. She laid her down to her confusion, while Naruto kneeled beside her. The seal is on the seal holding the QB, isn't it? To which she looked surprised at how he knew before nodding. With that, Mito slowly pulled her shirt up only above her swollen belly. This made Kushina blush in embarrassment, since her pregnant belly was completely in view. Naruto nodded at Mito, before he placed his hand upon her swollen belly before gently rubbing it, his eyes closed in concentration. Kushina felt his sudden contact, and had to suppress a moan as a pink hue rose to her face. His touch was so soft and gentle. It felt good. His hand upon her belly made her feel warm and protected under his dominating aura, making many in the forest completely flee from the area they were in. That's when her eyes widened, when she felt the rapid kicking of her unborn daughter inside her belly. It was like she too was feeling the same thing she was and was excited at the touch. It was like she enjoyed it as much as she did. Naruto felt the child inside the woman's belly kick and suppressed a small smile as he felt the child kick at where his hand would be at. It was amusing, really. It was like a game to the child. He shook his head, mentally preparing for the removal of the seal. Mito watched the interaction with a smile. Her master, without knowing it was a natural-born father, whether he knew it or not, was irrelevant, for she knew it. Children among the demon villages looked up to him in awe and reverence. Plus, seeing this sight of Kushina's unborn child reacting in such a way to her lord's touch alone showed Mito that her theory of him as a natural father to be quite accurate. Or was it something else? Naruto's hand started to glow in a purple aura before he spoke. Akuma no Yona Majiku, Hatsubai. Demon magic, release, before the purple aura came off of him and covered the enslavement seal upon Kushina's belly. And like Mito, the seal started to corrode before flaking off like dry paint before it to turn to dust in the wind. Kushina watched this all in amazement before her eyes started to swell up in tears before she fully lost it and acted. Naruto didn't expect the next thing to happen when Kushina hugged him fiercely, crying away, speaking of thank you, thank you, thank you. Now, Naruto was never used to this kind of touch before, and Mito saw this before gently prying off Kushina, hugging her while her master quickly stood up, straightening his clothes before looking the other way to keep the change of emotions in his eyes away from them. Damn, what's wrong with me? The mortal woman hugs me and I almost lose control of my emotions. It was a few minutes later that Kushina calmed down enough to look clearly at the person that helped her immensely. Drying her tears, Kushina silently thanked Mito. Now, Kushina, tell me where this mortal is. Namikaze Minato. His death is the second part of the bargain, and I must fulfill it. Where is he? To which Kushina quickly spoke. He's at the training ground 7, it's a little ways from here and outside of Konoha mostly. Naruto nodded before he walked over to her. Kneeling down, he did something that made Mito grin and Kushina yelp in surprise. Naruto gently picked up Kushina in a bridal carry since she was pregnant, and even if he was a very evil bastard, didn't want to kill the kid. The pregnant woman's face resembled a blood-red tomato since her face was in his chest while she felt his steel-hard muscles through his fabrical clothing. She unconsciously snuggled a bit more when his more protective side of his aura came out, overcoming her and Mito. Then let us go see this human, and with that Naruto and Mito disappeared in a flash of light. Training Ground 7. Appearing on the outside of the training field, Naruto and Mito appeared with Kushina gripping his clothing very tightly, her face smashed into his chest, her eyes closed. Mito found this quite amusing while Naruto didn't know how to react to this really. Gently prying her off, he set her down before he looked at Mito. I sense the mortal signature. Place a barrier around here where no one will hear or see this battle, also make it where no one else can get in. She nodded, and before Kushina's amazement, Mito's index finger started to glow purple before she wrote in the air, forming something kind of like a Fuinjutsu circle. Akuma Fuinjutsu, Sando to Saido Jiken Yagami Bariya, Demon Fuinjutsu, Sound and Sight Time Distortion Barrier, before all the trees around the training grounds glowed for a second before disappearing. Nodding in approval, Naruto spoke. Very good, Mito, now get Kushina and bring her with us. She must see this human's death to know he truly dies, to which she nodded, and with some help from Naruto, Kushina was walking with Mito behind Naruto. But along the way, it was like everything parting its way from them, even the trees bent opposite from them, while the animals all but scurried off or the closest died from being near them. The two Uzumakis blinked before Mito sensed the growing demon bloodlust from her master. And she was a bit scared. It was a lot more terrifying than she's seen it in a long time. What the two didn't know though was that Naruto saw more than just that bruise on her wrist. When she was clutched to his body, he saw many more going along her arms. This made him speculate she was hiding many more bruises upon her body. Now he may be a devil, but to abuse a woman holding an unborn child was an act he could not forgive. It was despicable, disgusting, and outright unforgivable, and such an act is dealt with punishment, in his eyes a straight shot to hell, with him being the harbinger to your trip down into the brimstone realm of Makai. Namikaze, I will show you what happens when you piss off a devil. With that, Naruto, Mito, and Kushina entered through the foliage as the trees parted way and the clouds themselves splitting apart due to the overwhelming demonic aura coming off Naruto. When Naruto's eyes set upon the spiky blonde-haired human training away, his eyes showed nothing, and the only word to describe his face was stoic. Mito, take Kushina and stay at least 25 feet away. I don't know what would happen if Kushina or the unborn child is affected by my Yukai, so better safe than sorry. Mito did while sitting down, Kushina following as her eyes set upon the scene of what was to be where this Naruto would kill Minato. She so desperately wanted to see this, feeling her child kick a bit showed she too wanted to at least feel what was going to happen. Seeing this, Naruto nodded before turning his gaze toward the human before walking toward him, the grass itself burning away with each step he took. The air was even shifting uncontrollably. The trees turned dead at feeling his demonic energy coming off of him. Minato somehow felt this and turned around before his eyes widened upon seeing someone before him dressed quite strangely. It was the face that got him. The markings on his face and the crimson red lines going down his face made him feel a little weirded out. Only did when he felt the demonic energy coming off the man did he finally tense up. Who are you? To which Naruto just kept glaring at him with such unholy anger that his purple eyes seemed to tear right into Minato's soul and petrify it, making him freeze. Mortal, I have been summoned to kill you. I shall fulfill my end of the bargain. Confused a bit, Minato spoke. Wait, what are you talking about? What bargain? What summon? Who would want to kill me? His questions coming out like a rapid piston. Naruto just kept looking right at him through his very soul tonelessly. First of all, don't question me, for I will kill you with a snap of your neck. Second of all, I was given a deal to get rid of a few seals, but also to kill you, Namikaze Minato. Thirdly, that is none of your concern, and lastly, Uzumaki Kushina wants you dead for what you have done to her, and personally I agree with her. Hearing the last part made Minato's azure blue eyes narrow in anger. That bitch? Ha, she put you up to this? Guess I'll have to set her straight later. Look, buddy, you can just go. I don't want to hurt you now. Only for him to stop talking as he fell to his knees as unbearable pressure crashed onto him. His tanned face quickly went pale, sensing the great sinister aura coming off this person in front of him. Naruto slowly took a step after step toward the shaking human. It was amusing really that the human actually thought he could beat him. Ha! Arrogant humans at their best. But what he said about Kushina, he wasn't gonna let him die quickly, he was gonna drag out his death slowly. And most painfully. Mortal, you really are a stupid fool, to have beat a woman who is pregnant with that of an innocent soul. Truly you are a despicable little man. But nevertheless I cannot abide my presence any longer. I will fulfill my bargain before I drag your pathetic soul into hell, where you can be tortured along with your fellow Shodaime. This information made Minato's eyes widen, but before he could speak, Naruto appeared right in front of him, not making a sound, Naruto's fist already embedded into Minato's stomach. Right then, with a painful grunt, blood shooting out of his clenched teeth, Minato shot right across the training grounds and right into a few trees before slamming into the barrier Mito put up, burning his back. Ah! He stopped when Naruto's hand covered his mouth, muffling his screams before he slammed Minato's head a few times into the barrier, making his hair catch fire while giving severe burns to his head. Then he spin-kicked him back to the training fields before appearing over his body, kneeing him in the back with Minato slamming into the ground, creating a massive crater. The sound of bones breaking and a spine snapping in half echoed around the barricaded area. "Ayaha!" screamed the Namikaze. "Yes," screamed Mortal, "for there is much more to come for your sins." And did Minato suffer? Naruto grabbed him by his leg before swinging him backwards and into the ground, creating a human-sized crater. Not letting Minato's pain up the slightest, he swung back and forth repeatedly as the grunts and screams of pain from Minato could be heard as his blood splattered the ground. Not done yet, however, Naruto pulled Minato up from his leg so he could look the man in the eye, only to grunt in annoyance when the man tried to use his other leg to kick off him, only to fail as Naruto's iron liek grip beat Minato's feeble attempt to break free of his hold. "Pathetic mortal, squirming around like a worm," he muttered before threw the Namikaze to the side, sending into the ground, causing a trench before he hurled right into the trunk of tree. However, despite the internal pain he was feeling, Minato was able to stand up before he pulled out his Hiraishin kunai, causing Naruto quirk an eyebrow before Minato hurled it toward Naruto, which the devil easily shifted his head slightly to the right. However, he didn't even flinch when the man disappeared in a yellow flash before he appeared behind him. For Naruto's left arm was already in motion, which backhanded the Namikaze, crushing his lower jaw before he was sent flying, only for him to vanish in another yellow flash before he appeared above Naruto with a swirling blue orb held in his right hand. "Take this Hiraishin, level 2, Rasengan." With a shout, Minato thrust his attack downward, only to his immense shock did the purple malevolent orbs of his mysterious attack to slowly glance upwards, piercing directly into his own eyes before with speed he couldn't see. Naruto's arm blurred faster than the spectators could see and actually stopped the Rasengan with his palm. Minato was in shock at this, but what froze him on contact was Naruto's bristling purple orbs filled with such intense hate it made him unable to speak a word. "You call this an attack?" Pitiful was all he said before clacked his hand, causing the Rasengan to disperse before he crushed Minato's hand, causing the injured Namikaze's eyes to widen in pain before he was pulled down by his neck before he was slammed into ground, his muffled screams echoing within the confined sealed training grounds. Watching this all in content was Kushina while Mito pat her head. It must be good to see her most hated enemy be thrashed around like a rag doll. "Naruto-sama, he is quite angry," Mito muttered as she saw Naruto toss the Namikaze into the air before slamming his head face first into the ground once more, making another crater, while possibly breaking many bones in his face before grabbing the man by what hair on his head he had left before ripping it completely off his scalp. "Yeah, I can see why you like him, he's very protective of women from what I can see," Kushina muttered, her eyes gleaming in happiness as Minato was being beaten around like the bastard he was. It was hilarious in a way to see the one person she wanted dead for so long to scream like a child when he had his arm pulled out of socket and broken in the opposite direction. "I agree, and I'll tell you this, Naruto-sama may be downright evil when you first meet him. The coldest being you would ever meet, but after a while you'll see why I like being his slave." Naruto held the Namikaze by the throat, his feet dangling above the ground. His body was broken and beat beyond all healing. His face was nothing but a bloody smear, his nose broken and twisted in a way there wasn't any fixing it. His teeth all but shattered, all 4 of his limbs broken with all of the bones in pieces with them also embedded into his inner muscles of his limbs. Naruto lit a small cold smirk when he heard the mortal all but whimper now, since his scream were silenced when he ripped out his tongue. He don't think we're done yet, mortal." His smirk turned downright vicious even more when he saw the fear in his eyes. It grew even more so when he grasped his beaten and broke arm. "Your torture is far from done with that." Naruto slowly ripped Minato's right arm off all the way from his shoulder, making blood shoot out like a geyser as the tortured human whimpered even more loudly in pain. Grabbing the other, Naruto's cold expression was quite the sight, with all the blood all over his face, making him truly look even more demonic than he already was. "Here goes another one." Then the left arm was ripped off from the shoulder, making blood shoot out at the same speed. Next he grabbed both legs into Minato's immense never-ending pain, ripping them off from his pelvis before he spoke. "Now die slowly while choking on your own blood and flesh." With that, Naruto slammed both of the dismembered legs through Minato's stomach and chest before he grabbed arms and slammed them both through his mouth and back through his head, making his body quickly go limp in a matter of seconds of twitching. That pathetic mortal deserved every bit of pain he got, he voice changing back to normal. That's when he saw the soul of Minato coming up from his dead bloody body, only for him to grasp it, making its eyes wide in fear. "Oh, you're not going anywhere, you're going to hell where you belong." With that, Naruto slammed his other hand onto the ground, speaking. "Akuma no Yona Majiku, Jigaku no Dorigachin, Demon Magic, Dragging Chain of Hell, with a dark portal the size of a human formed before a crimson-red spike chain shot out before it grasped Minato's soul. It screamed in pain as it swirled around his soul, shredding it and damaging it before it slowly pulled back to the portal. Minato's soul saw this and tried to fiercely pull back, only to be stopped, and with a final tug, Minato's screaming soul was pulled into the abyssal portal straight into hell, where his soul would forever be tortured for an eternity. Sighing, Naruto turned toward Minato's body and raised his hand. Akuma no Yona Majiku, Shinshoku, Demon Magic, erode. With that, a green aura came off Naruto's hand before it drifted slowly to Minato's dead, tortured body before it was enveloped by the greenish aura before his body started to smoke. Mito grinned, knowing this was the same technique he used to kill Hashirama. Kushina was still watching in amazement. She watched of how this Naruto, this demon from hell, completely and utterly tortured and killed Minato without even trying, but took pleasure in killing him. She watched with wide eyes as Minato's body started to let out a poisonous-looking smoke before his flesh started to burn from within before melting out, as did his eyes. Everything melted into a green liquid, leaving behind only his skeleton. Stopping the technique, Naruto turned his head toward Mito and Kushina before walking over to them. "Alright, it is finished now, Kushina, it is time I marked you." He saw her eyes widen a bit, but the reassurance from Mito made her feel slightly more relaxed. Kneeling down, Naruto brought out his index finger before it flamed up in the purple aura before he grasped her shoulder. Gently he pulled down her shirt a bit, revealing her unblemished skin, thus making her blush like Mito did when he did this. "This will hurt a bit, Kushi-chan, just bear with it," Mito cooed as Naruto dragged his finger over her shoulder. Kushina whimpered in pain at feeling the hot dragging of Naruto's finger upon her shoulder. When it was done though, she stopped a bit to look down at her shoulder to see, slave of Hellwing Naruto. Hellwing Naruto has a very good ring to it, Kushina mentally though, as she watched the mark disappear into her skin. "Now Kushina, I will be back along with Mito when your death is near. When you die I will drag your soul with me to hell. Till then enjoy your life as a human, Mito, let's go," to which she nodded before standing up with a smile directed to Kushina. Kushina watched them walking away, feeling something within her wanting to tell Naruto to stop, to wait something. She didn't know what it was, but she wanted him to stay. "Wait!" she shouted, making them both stop. Naruto looked over his shoulder, his eyebrow raised in question. "Yes?" To which she slowly walked up to him before bowing her head before him. "Naruto-sama, would you please do me a favor? CC, can you stay here? Only for a little while?" she said, her face blushing up a bit from what he was asking. Mito raised an eyebrow in curiosity while Naruto kept his eyes right on her before he closed them in thought. A few seconds later, he opened them to speak. Well, Lucifer won't be making another move for a while. Very well, we shall stay for 2 days, but that's it. We need to go back afterwards." To which Kushina grinned happily while Mito gave her master a look of gratefulness. "TT, thank you, and Naruto-sama," she said, her head down in respect. Naruto nodded before speaking. "We shall stay though out of Konoha. I cannot bear being near any of those other mortals, so we shall be staying in the forest." To which Mito nodded, as did Kushina. She was used to sleeping in the wilderness. Getting this, Naruto slammed his hand into the barrier Mito made and gripped it, making a visible white crack appear before it broke like glass. "Then let us go then." With that, Naruto jumped off with Mito carrying Kushina in her arms. All of them jumping into the forests away from all prying eyes. No doubt in a few minutes the area would be swarmed with Konoha shinobi. Forest of Death. Dropping down into the forest where they met Kushina first, Naruto walked over to the biggest tree with the widest trunk. His hand hit it a few times before he nodded in what seemed approval. What's he doing?" Kushina said, bewildered at what Naruto was doing. Mito just smiled at her reaction. "Making our home for the next 2 days." Before she could speak, she heard loud wham! She turned her head in time to see to her shock a 20-foot hole inside the tree with Naruto's outstretched hand, smoke coming off his knuckles. In front of him was a single intentioned piece of the tree on the ground. "This will be where we stay for the 2 days. After that we leave," to which Mito nodded while Kushina spoke. "Thank you for doing this, Naruto-sama," to which he just nodded before going inside the tree, them following behind him. He then snapped his fingers, making the same barrier Mito did appear over where the hole he made into the tree was. "To make sure we aren't found, can't have Kami's forces onto us. Now I'm gonna go take a nap." With that, Naruto walked over to the more darker part of the tree before sitting on the ground, leaning against the tree before closing his eyes. The two watched this before they looked at each other. "So wanna tell me about your life as his slave, Mito-sama?" Kushina asked, curious to how her next life would be like. Mito just smiled and explained to her of what she went through in her time in hell. 2 days later, Mito explained most of what happened from the very beginning of when she summoned Naruto, to where she died and had her body taken with her to become a demon. She told Kushina everything she had been through and held the training she went through by Naruto. Everything she told her of was like a fairy tale to Kushina. Throughout the whole story she sat in her lap listening to her like she did as a child hearing of her other stories. Even then, the baby within her kicked a few times when Naruto was mentioned, and of how he protected her from the demons that flocked to her, and of how he fought against legions upon legions of demons, batting them away like flies, or of him killing Gilgamesh, a fellow demon titan, in only under 3 minutes flat. The next life for her fascinated her greatly, even more so when Akemi told her the life she would have would be a great one, that was for sure. Kushina also told her of how her life has been growing up in Konoha after running away from Yuzuno Kuni when it was attacked. She told her of how Konoha had been pleased to have her in their ranks as a shinobi. It was also to the delight of Mito that Kushina told her of how Konoha has all but studied upon finding out what exactly killed their Shodaime. She did tell her of how the Kyuubi was getting along with her in the years, but she also explained of how Konoha had been trying to use her to try and gain the Uzumaki Fuinjutsu from her, since they couldn't from Mito since her body was gone after her death. To say Mito was pissed was like saying Lucifer had a small power complex. She was downright furious but kept her demon aura from reaching her master. She didn't want to wake him up on a minor emotional outbreak. Too bad the two didn't know Naruto had heard everything and his hate for humanity in general rose a few notches. Getting up from his nap, Naruto looked over to see Mito and Kushina sleeping against the inside trunk of the tree, Kushina leaning in against Mito, her arms wrapped around her swollen belly, while Mito herself had her arms wrapped from behind Kushina in a protective manner. Seeing this, Naruto turned away before walking out over to the indention he made in the tree. Looking up at the sky, he concentrated his eyes with a glare. He looked to see slight moving dots far above in the sky. This made him frown before he heard something. Looking back at the two sleeping women, he saw Mito rubbing her eyes with her kimono as Kushina stretched arms out, letting out a big yawn. Kushina moaned before opening her eyes slightly to see Mito waking up as well. Looking around the area, she found her breath hitching in her throat to find Naruto's gaze staring right at her, his purple eyes looking deep into her soul. Feeling his intense gaze, she looked down at her swollen belly as a pink hue come up to her face while the unborn baby kicked a few more times. Mito, it is time we left. I sense Kami's forces searching the area, he said as he walked over to the two before kneeling in front of them. Kushina's eyes somehow gained a saddened look, but she quickly made it disappear. Mito just nodded her head with a small sad smile, knowing she'd have to leave Kushina for a while. Yes, Naruto-sama, I'm ready to leave, he nodded before he snapped his fingers, making the barrier shatter like a broken mirror showing the forest outside. Good, then let us go. Only for him to feel something grasping his wrist. Slowly looking down, he found Kushina looking down with her other trembling hand on her swollen belly. And Naruto-sama, could you before you go place your hand on my stomach again? I'm sure the baby would like to feel it again, she said slowly, not wanting to anger Naruto the slightest. Naruto kept his eyes on her form before turning his gaze to see Mito's pleading eyes, knowing she wanted him to accept. Sighing a bit, he knelt down. Very well, then lay down. She did so with a big smile coming up her face. Naruto reached the under part of her shirt and brought it up over her swollen belly, showing it in full view once more. Placing his hand atop the pregnant belly, Naruto closed his eyes to feel the baby kick greatly at his touch once more. He let a small twitch of his lip before rubbing her belly, slowly getting the interaction of the baby kicking more. He never saw Kushina's mad blush on her face or the look in her eyes when she was looking at his form with a bit of longing for him to stay a bit longer, and something else only Mito caught. Pulling his hand away, he pulled her shirt back down, while Mito helped her stand before she stared at Naruto with a thankful look in her eyes. Thank you for doing that, Naruto-sama. I hope I haven't made you angry, to which he just waved it off while looking away. It is of no concern. We must leave though. Mito let us go. With that his slave nodded before giving a smile to her before walking away with her master into the dark swirling portal back to hell, awaiting the time for death. Kushina watched them go as she rubbed her belly once more as her eyes drifted more on Naruto's, retreating back with a soft smile on her face. Naruto-sama, he truly is like Mito said, may be hard a bit to understand, but I can see a little softness somewhere in him. She felt her baby kick again at her mental thought. Looking down, she smiled. You like Naruto's touch, huh? If she would have looked out into the skies above the forest, she would have seen armored figures with white wings on their backs, spears all in their hands. We lost the unholy being. He has left back to hell. We must report back to Kami-sama. The being said behind him was countless of the same angelic-looking soldiers, all floating above the scene, weapons in their hands and scowls on their faces. Hell. Dropping back to hell, Naruto and Mito looked around as the portal closed behind them. Seeing nothing much had changed, Naruto walked forward, heading back to his house, Mito walking by his side. Naruto-sama, if I may ask, Which of Kami's forces was there? To which Naruto gave her a side glance as he kept walking. It was Kami's personal guardsmen, the personally trained soldiers by Kami. The Jujigen no Gutai, Crusader Legion. They are by many means stronger than the legions of demons down here in hell, and you wouldn't have been able to fight them at your current power. I can take them no doubt, for I have been here much longer than that force was even created. My power outmatches their own by leaps and bounds. Now we must go, you need to get back to your training, he said, to which Mito managed a nod while thinking on this force from heaven. Heaven Court of Kami. Shouting of many voices could be heard in the court of Kami. Male to female, all was outrageous voices of anger, and it was all aimed at one being, a woman with the body of a goddess, and make any straight or gay man straight as a board, and make all women jealous, or make a lesbian die of a nosebleed. She had long flowing silver hair that which seemed to glow even in the white court. Her eyes were that of a golden which seemed to shine with the inner wisdom and power but slight irritation. Her skin was a pale porcelain that of which looked so creamy and gentle to the touch it was begging to be touched. She wore a white kimono with silver threads at the end. Designs of flowers danced across her clothing. She had a black sash around her waist. She had simple wooden sandals on. Her was Kami, ruler over heaven, and strongest and oldest of her fellow deities. Beside her was her sister Megami, goddess over death. She looked just like her, only with a few different features. Her hair was a mixture of white HD purple, with her skin being the same as Kami's own, only a bit paler. Her fingernails were sharp. 2 bangs framed her face, as her eyes were the same golden amber as her sister's. Her face was completely heart-shaped, but with a more hardened look. She wore a very royal revealing black kimono, but still good amount of decency. It just showed a good amount of cleavage and side of her legs. Around her waist was a purple obi holding the kimono tighten in a graceful knot in her back as it flows with her. Right now both Kami's and Megami's delicate eyebrows was twitching in annoyance, as the court was filled with their fellow gods and goddesses yelling and screaming from what had been going on. Ever since Lucifer's defection from Yami, hell had been all but nice. They had been attacking her forces, with Lucifer leading them as well as him attacking Yami, their other fellow god. He was just sitting quietly watching the scene with an amused expression. There was also the screams of one particular demon in hell. This demon was Hellwing Naruto, the devil that shook hell to its very core and was said to have the power to match even Lucifer himself. His deeds and actions against both Lucifer and Yami have reached even them, and many of their fellow deities have felt that he should be killed before he becomes too strong. Honestly, they just thought some were scared that Naruto was said to have beaten Gilgamesh in under 3 minutes flat for just annoying him. Kami-sama. She heard her name. Looking at the doors slamming open, she found her Crusader Legion all coming in with worried faces. Yes, what is it you have to report? Her voice booming with authority none could match. All attention was all the Crusader Legion. Even Yami was looking at them with a curious eye. We've returned, and what we have seen is not good, for the Chosen One's mother has made a deal with a demon. This made all sound go completely silent as Kami's eyes were wide. Her Chosen One's mother made a deal with a demon? Is she dead? Did the demon kill her? Is the unborn child okay? What happened? She asked, her voice commanding, making many of her fellow deities shiver a bit from the power from her voice. It happened 2 days ago. Uzumaki Kushina, she made a deal to have her enslavement seals taken off her and to have Namake's Minato killed, to which many growled at the enslavement seals. Mostly the females of the court. Kami and her sister scowled at the mention of those seals. I see, and who was the demon she summoned? This made them shift uneasily, which many caught. Amaterasu, getting annoyed, spoke. Who was it? To which the Crusader Legion captain spoke. It was Naruto, Hellwing Naruto, the demon titan devil from hell. He finished before keeling on the ground once more. Once the name of that certain devil was spoken, Yami released so much killing intent that it surprised even Kami and Megami. Did you just say Hellwing's name? He was there? This whole time? And with the Chosen One's mother of all people? His godly voice making the Legion quake under his power. Kami, seeing this, released her power with a quick flare, making Yami's own pale in comparison. That is enough. Yami, sit down and calm yourself. Captain, tell me, how long was he there? Her voice soft and caring as she spoke. The Legion fully relaxed under their master's voice. He was there with her for 2 days. He and his unholy slave Uzumaki Mito stayed with Kushina, not mentioning she requested for them to stay a bit longer. This seemed to disturb the deities, while Susanoo narrowed his eyes in suspicion. That demon stayed with Kushina for 2 days. Is she all right? Amatsumi Kaboshi spoke, to which one of the Legion nodded. Kami took this all in stride and spoke. I see, thank you for reporting this to me. Go back out there and keep watch. I want Hellwing watched when he comes back to Ninjenkai, to which they nodded before going back through the doors. Though none saw the slight hesitation in Kami and Megami's eyes when they sent them away. though no one would expect what would be happening in the following years. 3 years later. Hell. It's been a century since Naruto and Mito were summoned by Kushina, her making a deal with Naruto and him marking her as a slave. After leaving Ninjenkai, Naruto had Mito go back into training, for she needed it just in case the next time they went to Ninjenkai and they were attacked she would be ready. Of course, he paid up the time he lost in hell by pissing off Lucifer when he destroyed 10 of his legions when he returned, showing he was back. Thus made the normal schedule of him killing more of Lucifer's men day by day, while Yami's own forces even helped a few times to help kill him, only to be destroyed completely and utterly. Right now, Naruto and Mito were enjoying a stroll through hell, as many of the demons that knew Naruto and Mito for their kinder deeds with helping their towns waved at them before Naruto stopped suddenly before looking up as if staring at nothing. Mito saw this and spoke. Naruto-sama, is something wrong? He just kept looking up before he spoke. It is near. It would seem Kushina isn't as lucky as you were, Mito. Kushina's death is coming. This made her eyes wide in horror. Turning her gaze toward her master, she spoke. WW what? But WW wait, her due date is soon. Oh no, she'll die by childbirth. No Uzumaki woman has ever suffered such a fate, for our bodies are too strong from being drained from such a thing. Plus with Kushina's special chakra, this made Naruto nod a bit. I don't know how she would die, for that is only known by the goddess of death Megami and Kami. The only thing I know is that her time is near. Mito slowly turned to him and spoke so quietly many wouldn't hear her, but Naruto did. Naruto-sama, there's something I have to ask of you. Naruto turned to her, giving her his full attention. Yes? She bent her head low, her hair shadowing her eyes. Is there something you can do? Save her? I mean stop Kushina's death, where she could spend some time with her child a week at least. Now Naruto didn't expect this question, but wasn't surprised Mito asked with such nervousness in her voice. But I can't. This made Mito snap her head at him. Can't or won't? Her voice quivering, knowing there was times when Naruto was very cold and showed he was a true devil. Ignoring the barb, Naruto spoke. I can't for 2 reasons, Mito. First of all, on the business side, it would be seen from me for delaying the deal from completion by giving her more time to live. I honestly owe her nothing to do this for her. I must do my part as she does her own. True, this may seem cruel, especially in this type of situation, but this is how deals between demons and humans are. The second reason is that, by ancient law, I can't interfere with her day of death. I am under no circumstance to prevent her death of a human, or else the punishment of such a thing is very high. His tone extremely grave, more so than she's ever seen. Gulping nervously, Mito spoke. WW what is this punishment? Naruto looked at her and spoke with the most grave tone. She shivered, feeling a cold chill shoot through her spine. Total soul obliteration, he said, since he may be a devil, but he won't lie to his slave. Mito stood there, her eyes widened in terror at what she just heard before she hung her head low, knowing that Naruto wouldn't break such a law to have his soul destroyed. Now let us go, Mito. With that, Naruto opened up a portal before walking in, Mito following in behind him. Hi no Kuni outside the ceiling chamber. Coming out of the portal, Naruto and Mito came upon a large rock formation with many Konoha shinobi guarding the entrance, walking toward the side of the chamber. Naruto felt Kushina energy inside as well as Kyuubi's chaotic yukai as well. We can't enter, so we shall watch. With that, he gathered yukai into his hand before speaking. Akuma no Yona Majiku, Hyoji Mirror, Demon Magic, Viewing Mirror. With a Naruto swiped his hand a few times, making a small dark mirror appear showing what was happening on the inside. I see, she's already in labor, Mito muttered as Naruto nodded. They watched as Hiruzen had his hand over the seal, keeping Kyuubi under control while his wife Biwako delivered the child. They saw the many Umbu guarding the outside and inside of the chamber. Kushina's screams from pushing her child out was heard from within even them. Ayan! She shouted while Biwako could see the crown in view. One more push, Kushina, one more. Hearing this, Kushina with all of her strength pushed, making her unborn daughter come out. Biwako pulled her out. Before cutting the umbilical cord, cleaning and wrapping her up, Biwako showed the sleeping whiskered face of Naruki to Kushina, who smiled greatly upon her daughter. She's so cute, she said, seeing the tuft of blonde with red highlights hair in full view. Mito smiled greatly at seeing Kushina's daughter being born. It always great to see another Uzumaki brought into the world, and especially since there was very few of them left in the world. Naruto himself watched the scene with a small ghost of a smile on his face. It was barely able to be seen, but it was there. That's when he looked to see a masked, cloaked figure killing the Umbu guard before coming into the chamber. Mito saw him enter and saw how the man killed Biwako before grasping the child. They watched the two argue over something trivial before the masked man threw the baby into the air. Oh no! Mito gasped. Naruto prepared a shadow spell just in case. Naruki! Kushina cried before Hiruzen, despite his old age, got to the baby in time before hearing the man's exclamation. Hope you can get rid of the explosive tags. His eyes widened before pulling off the cover wrapped around Naruki to see active explosive tags. Naruto narrowed his eyes at this before Hiruzen pulled them off in time as they exploded. The cloaked man getting to Kushina before warping away in what Naruto knew as Kamui. Let's go Mito, gotta keep an eye out for Kushina till she dies. With that they both disappeared into the portal following Kushina's signature while Hiruzen shooshined out of the chamber. Following the cloaked man, they found him with Kushina chained up by some two split pillars with Kyubi coming out of her seal. Now Kyubi, I order you to kill your former container. And to Genjutsu induced to fight back, Akemi shot her claw right at Kushina. Mito gasped before trying to interrupt it only for Naruto to stop her. Naruto-sama. We can't just only for him to shake his head as he spoke in a non-nonchalant manner. Still haven't noticed, have you? Blinking she turned her gaze at him. What are you only for her eyes to widen when she felt the multiple energies in the sky. Looking up, she saw the Jujigen no Guntai, Crusader Legion, all above them staring them down. Angels. Naruto nodded. Yes, they are here to stop us from interfering. They've been here before we even arrived. While I could defeat them all as they are no match for me, but that is their objective, to delay the both of us. Mito managed a strained nod as she glared at the angels above her. As the scene unfolded before them all. Mito slumped as she watched Kyubi about to pierce Kushina only for her to disappear in a yellow flash. Mito blinked. I didn't know she knew how to use that bastard's jutsu. Naruto just nodded as he watched the cloaked man wave off her disappearance before heading to Konoha Kyubi following his lead in her genjutsu-crazed state. Yes, it was a modified version meant for a one-time usage. They all watched the scene unfold as Kyubi was managed to be pushed back via giant summons, as Hiruzen prepared something only Naruto knew. Thus made him narrow his eyes in annoyance knowing what the man was gonna do. Sarutobi was alone with Kyubi on the battlefield as he ordered all of his men back, but, before he could do anything, chakra-coated chains shot out of the ground wrapping around Kyubi's body before slamming it to the ground's snout, and all chained down. Looking in shock, Hiruzen saw Kushina on the ground coughing up blood. Glancing at Hiruzen through her exhausted eyes, hurry up and get out of here, I'll take the Kyubi down with me, only for Hiruzen to shake his head. That is not possible, Kushina. We both know you're barely holding those chains and, besides, you're close to dying. The only way to stop the Kyubi from killing us all is to seal it away. Which she frowned at. Seal? What are you? Only for her eyes to widen, knowing exactly what he was implying now. Clenching her fists, she stood up despite her exhausted state and yelled. And no, I will not allow you to, only to fall to her knees coughing up more blood. Mito teared up at seeing her sight while Naruto just turned his gaze at the angels above him and glared, making the group tense. No, not her, I will not allow you, Kushina uttered, blood flowing out of her mouth, her eyes set ablaze in hate, glaring at Hiruzen in defiance, only for the man to shake his head. No, Kushina, only an Uzumaki can hold the Kyubi at bay, and you're almost dead. This is the only way, he said as he prepared the sealing. I will not allow it, she yelled, releasing the Hashimen Tanku, the 8 celestial chakra gates. With that her chakra jumped, completely shocking Hiruzen and surprising Kyubi. Naruto's own eyes widened a bit while Mito let tears fall, knowing what would happen when she did this. Using the monumental chakra she gained, Kushina pulled the chains down, slamming the Kyubi into the ground before she started to pull on it, making the Kyubi drag itself to her where her original seal was located. That's when she felt the drawback of using the gates and fell to her knees, her aura fading. Kyubi took this chance and attacked Hiruzen. After summoning the cradle and placing Naruki in it, Hiruzen looked up to see Kyubi's massive claw coming its way. Kushina, gathering the last bit of strength she had, jumped in front of the attack, getting impaled by Akemi's claw. Mito's eyes widened while Naruto closed his eyes. Hiruzen, seeing Kushina not moving, did the required hand seals, ignoring the baby's cries, and slammed his hands on the ground. Forbidden Fuinjutsu, Shiki Fujin. Dead Demon Consuming Seal. That's when the apparition of Megami appeared in her Shinigami form, as the humans call it nowadays. They all watched it unfold as Hiruzen had Megami seal Kyubi into the blonde-haired baby and sacrificing his soul to her. Doing this, Megami ripped out Hiruzen's soul from his body and ate it. Seeing Kushina's soul coming out, Naruto took this as his K and appeared right in front of Megami, taking Kushina's soul. Kushina saw Naruto staring her down as her soul started to form and smiled, uttering two words, Naruto-sama. Naruki-chan. With that, Naruto sealed Kushina's body away. Megami watched this with a smile. It's good to know that you follow the rules unlike your fellow demons, Hellwing, to which Naruto just gave her a glance and spoke. True, it's also good to know that you deities can be much more evil than us demons to make her death like this, thus making Megami frown and Mito smirk, knowing her master shut up the deity quite greatly. The captain of the Crusader Legion was frowning at the scene. The Chosen One's mother was in the hands of a demon. Now he had order not to interfere with anything that goes by all ancient laws, but he couldn't let this unholy thing take the Chosen One's mother to hell. Hellwing! Stop right there! The captain announced his men all ready for what their captain was gonna do. Megami gave them a curious side glance while Naruto just spoke his back to them. HM? What is it? I have a deal to keep here as Mita looked between her master and the scowling Legion captain. That's the thing, we cannot allow you to take her soul to hell. We shall not let you corrupt her like you've corrupted Uzumaki Mito. This made Mito scowl in annoyance. Now this got Naruto's attention. Did they not know that interfering with a deal between a demon and a human was breaking Kami's laws? And in front of Megami no less? Hee pitiful. Oh, you think you can stop me? Megami, you bore witness to this. They tried to stop the deal, now they shall pay. Which Megami just nodded slowly, knowing they did break one of Kami's laws. Though her eyes were still locked upon Naruto's form as his body was now set aflame by the fires of hell. Mito watched carefully. This is the first time I've shown you my transformation. Burn this in your mind. This is the power of a devil. And with that, Naruto's whole form was engulfed in the flames of hell circling his form. The Crusader Legion all tense, knowing their target was transforming. They had all heard rumors, stories and myths about Hellwing's transformation. But what they saw scared them beyond anything. Megami's eyes were wide in shock. The power coming from Naruto was over Lucifer's own, while Mito was in awe, complete and utter awe. For in front of them all was a 7-foot black armored figure. His whole body completely dressed in demonic armor. Spikes jutted out of his shoulders with his purple demonic eyes coming from the black spiked helmet of the demonic-looking knight. His feet now spiked metal boots, his hands now gauntlets with all of his fingers overshadowed by razor-sharp metal fingers. His 2 10-feet-long black wings spread out wide as they can be, showing of what he was. His devilish 5-foot tail shot out of his backbone, spikes running along the back of it with the color being a crimson. Over the whole armor was demonic runes going down all over his metal armor. The flames of hell danced across his armor and the ground he stood upon. His power and Yukai oozed out of him like a leaking dam close to breaking. The Crusader Legion were trembling in pure unadulterated fear and terror. The rumors, the myths and stories did this no justice. This being before them scared them worse than Yami did. Now pay the price for breaking the rule and annoying me. With that, flames sprouted from Naruto's hand before it took shape. They all watched as the flame took the shape of a 6-foot katana, only the blade being pure black in color with the red demonic crimson runes embedded within the blade. The handle being of pure blood red crimson with the guard taking the shape of a demon's maw wide open. At the end was a small black chain dangling at the end. Meet Apocalypse, now die. With that, Naruto appeared in the middle of the Crusader Legion faster than Mito or the Legion could see, and before they knew it, 4 of the soldiers were falling to the ground, their wings sliced off along with their heads. Sensing the oncoming enemy, Naruto turned around and slammed his hand in time into the face of an oncoming soldier and chuckled. Hee, eat this. Big Iban no Yami wa Furashu, Big Bang darkness flash, before a darkness encircled Naruto's hand before the angel's eyes widened in horror. Second later, that angel along with half of that Crusader Legion was obliterated by a wave of condensed darkness. It tore them apart, burning them, disintegrating them all. The clouds were split by the attack. Megami watched this in complete shock. That attack alone would have dealt a serious blow to a deity. Mito watched as her master just obliterated half of Kami's personal forces with one attack. Her eyes were filled in amazement as she burned her master's devil form into her mind forever. It was like looking at the very embodiment of power. His power was full out, and it made her feel like she was in an ocean of Yukai. Naruto's power was a literal maelstrom, it growing with each passing day. The captain watched horrified at how this unholy being just killed off half of his men. With one attack at that. He had to give the order to retreat lest he lose more men, but a deep burning hatred flared in his eyes when he looked upon Naruto's devil form. As for flames of hell burned around him, making him look like a grim reaper coming for its next victim. His purple eyes glowed murderously when he set his gaze upon them, his Nodachi flames up with the fires of hell. Seeing no other way, retreat. Head back to heaven. In which they did, but Naruto chased down a few, killing a few of them before the rest left through the portal. Seeing them gone, Naruto flew back down to Mito, his appearance making her very light-headed. Megami just eyed him curiously before leaving through a portal when Naruto's demonic gaze cast upon her. Mito, it is time to go, I tire of this place, his voice returning to normal, his form changing back to his normal form. Mito just nodded dumbly, still in shock at seeing her master transform and fight like that. Why yes, Naruto-sama, and with a final glance to Naruki, Mito followed her master through the portal. Though none of them saw the blonde pigtailed Sannin Senju Tsunade come upon Naruki with annoyance and arrogance brimming in her eyes. Hell. Once reaching hell, Naruto pulled out Kushina's soul to see it form into Kushina's form the first time they met her. Then Naruto unsealed her body before he started to do the same ritual he did for Mito. Kushina was too busy looking around in awe. She never did the battle Naruto did against the Crusader Legion, for her soul was still forming to even feel anything or see anything. Kushina startled out of her wonderment. She saw her new master looking at her with a giant circle made of blood in front of him, her body on the circle with strange symbols going directly to it. "Why, yes?" she said, to which Naruto cast his eyes back to the circle. "This is the next part. When sacrificing your humanity, I'm gonna be merging you and your body together and let the yokai from me gather into your body, transforming you into a demon, or more specifically a devil." To which she looked confused a bit, but a look from Mito saying she would know later, she nodded. "Okay, I understand," to which Naruto nodded before he began the ritual. He did the same with Mito, only this time he didn't need to renew her body to being young since it had only been a few months older than they first met. Though he did have to heal it up from the pregnancy and massive fatigue. So when the similar flash of light came, a not so much changed Kushina appeared in a crimson-red kimono with black trimmed edges and, like Mito, her bust increased to a D cup from the C cup she usually had. Her goddess-like figure became even more slender, making her look perfect with every curve on her body. Her violet eyes stayed the same, only more of darker shade, making them unique among many things. Though the yokai flowing through her showed she was a devil now, just like Mito was made into. "Whoa, I feel different, but I don't look at." Mito just grinned since she said the very same thing. "Don't worry, you've just become a devil like Mito and I am. You'll be trained by me, and if I'm not there, Mito will help you as she does her own training. Like I said with her Kushina, I will not have a weak slave and want you to be able to protect yourself if and when the time comes. So be prepared, for your training comes soon," to which she nodded with a small smile on her face. With that, the next few years were gonna be very hectic for Naruto and his beautiful slaves. If only the proverbial typhoon they will cause that will shake the very foundations of the three realms. Heaven Kami's court. "So you're telling me you disregarded the rules and attacked Hellwing Naruto for keeping the end of his bargain? Which you did so brazenly in front of my own sister, resulted half of the Crusader Legion destroyed? Is that what you're telling me here, Captain?" Kami said, her words sharp enough to through the hardest of metal and freeze the sun. Her eyes glaring down on the leader of the force, who at the moment was quivering in fright. Megumi was on the sidelines watching with a stern expression, as was a few other gods and goddesses. "Yes, Kami-sama," was the words from the captain, thinking he hadn't done anything wrong, since he was trying to gain the chosen one's mother from the unholy grasp of that monster. "I see, are you a fool?" Her words echoed around the court with enough divine power in each word to shake the court and make the mighty Crusader Legion into a trembling, whimpering mess, and made her fellow deities shiver. Her eyes glowed with an angerful look within, her face set into a scowl at the fools before her. "Kamiya-sama?" was the words the scared captain spoke. "You defiled my rules, broke them, ignored them, the laws I set even before you were created. And you want retribution for the law you broke? You're a fool. Hellwing had all rights to attack back when you and your legion tried to interrupt the deal. You should know by now, deals made between demons and humans are set in stone. No matter who they are. The ancient rule never to be broken, yet you did, and so carelessly." Her words making the captain and the rest of the legion go into shock. Kami sighed before sitting up straight, her eyes gaining a stony look. She already had reports from what her guardsmen had done, and she couldn't be more infuriated. They had all but broke her laws and attacked Hellwing. With the words from her sister, as well during the time, had all but made her decision she was about to make all the more certain. But Kami-sama, only for him to be silenced when Kami all but smashed him into the ground with just her glare alone. "No buts, I have decided your punishment." This got many raised eyebrows from other deities, unlike her sister, who already knew what she was going to decree. The legion, though, felt confusion rise in them. Punishment? Why were they being punished for a deed they thought was justified? "What punishment?" The captain spoke, regretting his words almost as quickly as he said them. "Your punishment is the most high, second to being killed. I will have you and your men stripped of your rank, title, and banished from the castle, where you will serve the rest of your lives in solitude, where you will repent for your actions against me. And to make sure you fools never try this again, I will make an example out of you. Since your punishment is close to heresy, I will treat you as such." Before anyone could understand what she meant, Kami merely raised her hand, and with a subtle twitch of her finger, she caused the clueless captain of the Crusaders to be flung her way by an invisible force before he was seen floating right in front of her. His shock was present, only to be replaced with terror when Kami's cold, unforgiving orbs pierced through him, as her words seemed to cause every occupant within the room to stiffen. "For your disobedience, I will deliver your punishment myself and teach you what happens when you disobey my owl," she said before she slowly stood up to her full height, before she raised her hand before pointing her index finger between the captain's eyes. Slowly white energy coated the tip of her finger before she spoke, Her azure ice-cold orbs bore through the man's own. Please KK Kamiss Sam and no. The man begged and pleaded but was ignored entirely as she without hesitation stabbed her finger right into his temple, not enough to pierce it, but enough for her energy to burn through his flesh and bone to mark him. Slowly, as she ignored his agonizing scream, she dragged her finger across the man's forehead, creating a scorch line mark across the man's forehead, which she ran down the left side of his face before ending it at his left eye, which she with brutal efficiency plunged her energy-coated finger into his eyes, crushing and burning it away, melting it within his eye's socket. Ignoring his screams, Cammy emotionlessly grabbed the captain by his head before effortlessly hurling him into his petrified legion, sending them tumbling to the floor. However, everyone was still stuck in a shocked stupor at what they saw. It was a very rare sight, almost non-existent for Cammy to ever hand and deal out such punishment, and to such a degree. But it also reminded them that to cross Cammy was the last thing any god or goddess ever dared to do, for it meant this or worse. They could only watch as she sat back down in her seat and beckoned the legion out, her tone cold and toneless. "Now get out of my sight!" Which the shocked legion could only nod their heads down before walking out of the court, their honor gone for disobeying their master, carrying their unconscious captain to seek out medical help for his injury. After they left, the other deities followed as they too were a bit shaken by Cammy's action, leaving only Megami and Cammy in the court. Once the door finally shut, Cammy's face broke out into a sigh with a frown adorning her face. Megami saw her sister's situation and spoke. "Something wrong, Cammy-chan?" Her words softer with only her and her sister alone. Cammy just looked up and smiled despite the annoyance in her eyes. "No, well, not really, it's just Hellwing. Something about him is just so interesting, and I guess when those fools dared to break my law and assault him even causes me to get angrier than usual," she said with as her frown turned into a small wistful smile at the mention of that certain devil. Megami only nodded with a smile of her own as she remembered the devil she saw up close just mere moments ago. To feel the brunt of his power and see his transformation before her very eyes was something she wouldn't forget for a long time, nor would she try to. After all, the devil was a subject of immense interest between her and Cammy. "Ah yes, well, all I can really say is that he's a strange one, especially after all the times we've watched him," her face adorning a small smile as well. Cammy just nodded, remembering the times she and her sister watched the strange yet very powerful devil rise in fam in hell. The deities knew she and Megami had watched the devil and had questioned her, and some had just plain thought it was a bit disturbing she and her sister were so interested in the unholy being. Yet they dared to never question them, leaving the two goddesses to their actions. But watching over him over the years, the two women had strangely developed an immense interest in the devil, to the point one would question if it was admiration, affection, or plain, outright love for the devil. They never dwelled on such things, nor did they dare to, but the pegging of such a thing for the two to ever love the devil, the very being who opposes all of heaven, was ludicrous, crazy, insane. And yet they couldn't deny they felt something for the devil. Their feelings for him were strange at best and could only be described at best that they held interest in him and kept an eye on him to watch as he grew into the devil he was today. "Though I've got the strangest feeling something big is gonna happen, something catastrophic," her words making Megami frown. "Who knows, the future is always changing, my dear sister." Cammy nodded at her sister's words, but couldn't help but feel something big was gonna happen. And it would shake the three realms immensely. If only the two knew this change would alter their lives forevermore. 60 years later, Hell. It's been a small yet very long 60 years in Hell, and many things have happened since Naruto brought Kushina in as his slave and made her into a devil. One thing was that Naruto wasn't kidding when he said he would be training her in her demonic powers, for the next day when they arrived he had pushed her through the same training regimen he did to Mito. He made her do everything to get stronger, just as he did for Mito. And to Naruto's secret approval, she pulled through every challenge he sent at her with fervor to get stronger and prove herself to her master. The one that saved her from her nightmare and gave her a new life away from Ninjenkai. Kushina, to Naruto's standards, was almost up to par with Mito. It would seem Kushina was much more in tune with training and sparring with either him or Mito made her power jump by leaps and bounds. Mito, though, didn't slack up a bit. If anything, she trained even harder than ever before. Maybe it was because she had someone to train with. Someone that she could actually challenge without be beaten into the ground each time? Or maybe it was something else. Who knows? Only that Naruto knew the two, for the lack of the better word, were the perfect team. Mito the long-range fighter, as Kushina herself was a close-range fighter. Both worked out their weaknesses and made them their strong points, so their teamwork was most amazing. Hell, when they both fought together against Naruto himself, they were at least able to injure him in their devil forms, going all out, while also making him actually put some effort to fight back. They were at the strength together of a second-level high demon, just under the level of a king, then a titan. Now when he gives them the time to gain experience with fighting other demons, their power and skill grow even more amazing. He himself was strong, yes, very strong, but over the last 60 years since his massacre of the Crusader Legion in front of Mito, and Megami has made something within him crack, making his power jump each passing day. He didn't know what it was, but did welcome it with open arms since he knew he was stronger than Lucifer, that he had no doubt in. But why was Lucifer still alive? Simple, Naruto wanted him alive. For one simple purpose, and that was to show him the difference between themselves in both power and skill. Kushina at one point, as did Mito once, meet Lucifer when the devil had come to battle Naruto once more, and saw how amusing it was in Naruto's eyes, as the last time they first fought they were on equal footing. But on that one fight Naruto was toying with the devil, making it look equal, but it was a fake that Naruto had kept up for years since his return with Kushina and Mito. It served its purpose as it kept Lucifer fueling and how he wanted to get stronger to kill his former student. The fool he is and always will be. Though word did reach Hell about the Crusader Legion's punishment, and of how they were stripped of their rank before thrown into solitude for disobeying Kami's rule and law. Naruto chuckled when he heard it. It was fitting, really, and amusing as well to see how the fools paid the price for their actions. Although if it was him, he'd skin them alive before throwing them into the pits of hell where they would be tortured for all eternity. Kushina hadn't changed much in appearance since her time in hell, but her attire was more tight-fitting than the loose kimono her friend Mito wore. For Kushina wore a crimson kimono along her body, hugging her hourglass figure perfectly, as a black tobi was wrapped around her waist which held her maroon-colored katan through her tobi as hoister. Black swirls adorned her kimono while the bunga of her hair were held up by a yellow hair clip. The Uzumaki insignia was etched into the back of her kimono's fabric. Overall she looked deadly, one very deadly Devil Empress. How many mistook her for the twin sister of Mito for their looks, but different tastes in combat. At the moment we could find both Kushina and Mito kneeling on the ground panting. Their eyes were glistening in exhaustion yet pride at their latest achievement. For in front of them was Naruto, standing in front of them, his arms crossed with a giant gash across his chest. His own eyes showing signs of approval as well. Good job, you two, you've injured me to this extent, only for Mito to point out her own answer with a smile on her face. True, but that's nowhere near to truly injure you, but I do see the improvement we're making. Naruto just shook his head at Mito's words. True, they did injure him, but the gash already started stitching back together, closing up the wound, leaving in seconds not a single blood stain. Though to even hurt him was something, for it was impossible to do due to his remarkable regeneration. Alright, that's enough for today, go rest, you'll need it for tomorrow's training. Which they both nodded at. Though when Naruto cast his gaze from Mito to Kushina, he saw something in her eyes that made him frown. It was sadness. Hell Street of Hellmaw. Walking along the streets of Hellmaw, the village of demons of all kinds, was Naruto, his slaves on both his sides. Demons all parted way from them, or those that knew of Naruto's reputation steered clear. However, it was the children that gazed upon the devil in awe and reverence. It was like the stories they heard was true from their parents. The legendary devil was as their parents told them about was. The hair, the face, the clothes, everything about him was true. Naruto walked through the street, his face indifferent as ever. The reason for their visit to this city was for a means, as he got word that a demon titan was causing havoc in the town and was murdering innocent demons and children. But honestly, he didn't care about that. What he did care about was that the fool was using his name as a leverage. He heard rumors the demon was his underling, and used that as a way to get away with things he did. He didn't like that. He did not like that at all. If there was another thing Naruto hated with a passion, it was those that used their name or fame to get away with other things. But this demon was using his name to do acts like this. That he would not allow. Hey mister. Hearing the words, Naruto looked over his shoulder to see 3 kids with 2 adult demons. All of them were, from what he could tell, the Inu demon. Very powerful demons that could be powerful in their own right, or peaceful beings that wanted nothing to do with violence. Raising an eyebrow, he spoke, "Yes, child?" His words cold and indifferent. Mito and Kushina looked on at the sight with curious eyes. It was rare for people to speak to their master, and especially children, since some were either scared of him from stories they were told, or the deeds known throughout hell was told to them made them too awed at his sight to even speak with him. Are you with that BB big meanie?" the little female dog demon asked in a stutter. Naruto rose an eyebrow before giving a slight brief glance to the parents, who of which tensed before casting worried looks at their children. Looking back down at the children, he spoke. "Big meanie? No, I'm not." This made a male Inu look up with hopeful eyes as his tail wagged back and forth excitingly. Then are you gonna take care of him? I mean beat him up and take him away from here, he's caused us so much pain. Which Naruto just looked at the little child before turning his head back in its original direction. That is correct. Before he walked away, his slaves following in behind him. He never saw the wide and hopeful eyes of all the Inu demons along with those that heard the conversation. With Naruto, he had only been a few minutes until they got to their designated spot. It was a pub basically where he and his slaves could already feel the yukai within, so with a slight knock, the door was slammed off its hinges and into the wall, silencing all the actions that just went on in the pub. All eyes were on Naruto, with Kushina and Mito behind him looking upon the wide-eyed demons in cold indifference. Naruto took a step forward and spoke. "Now which one of you is named Garrosh?" he said, and just as quickly as those words left his mouth, all pointed at a demon that just ran out the door. Twitching, Naruto sighed, rubbing his temples. "Pathetic fool," he said before all three vanished like the wind, only to appear in front of a demon that halted right in its steps. Its big hulking body froze in mid-step, its red eyes wide in terror as Naruto appeared in front of him with a sinister look in his purple eyes. They were all on the streets of the Helm, with villagers alike looking upon the scene with fear of what was gonna happen. The demon was named Garrosh Hellscream, who in general was a blood-red-skinned fell orc which dwarfed the size of other regular orcs. This was another demon titan that was known for his brute strength and abilities to rupture and upheave the very ground of hell, earning him a fierce reputation as a demonic killing machine. Yet that meant nothing to the devil before him, not that he knew who this truly was. "So you're the one that's been using my name to cover up your crimes, right?" Garrosh then right there answered his question by speaking. "And just who are you exactly? 'Cause you know if you attack me, my boss Hellwing Naruto will come down here and kill you before taking your little whores with you," it said with a lecherous grin when its gaze set upon Kushina and Mito. Now this was a very bad thing to say, since for one both Mito and Kushina gritted their teeth in anger as their demonic aura came off them in waves. The second thing that happened was, Naruto's eyes gained a much more evil look in them before his eyes quickly gained a slit within. "That, you foolish child, was a mistake for one. Who do you think you're talking to? You say you work for Hellwing Naruto? Do you even know what he looks like? Well, let me give you the picture right in front of you, for I am Hellwing Naruto." His words making the demon take a step back in shock once its eyes finally settled upon his appearance. His form started to tremble shakily as the combining demonic auras started to push down on him. Taking a step forward, Naruto spoke once more as his eyes flared purple as his form flashed in demonic aura. "And insulting my slaves was your second and worst mistake you'll ever make again." With that, Naruto descended upon the demon, laying down a beating so horrible that many demons that watched flinched and closed their eyes as the horrible screams from Garrosh echoed all across the village as his blood painted the walls and flew into the air. Crushing his tusks and jamming one through his chest, he sent the orc through several buildings before sending him into the ground, causing it to crater beneath the behemoth of an orc. Before the demon had time to even get up, Naruto was already there, his heel coming down, which slammed into the orc chest area, causing a faint crack before the orcs caved in on itself, while Garrosh's eyes bulged in agonizing pain. Such strength! Soon Garrosh was reintroduced to a whole new realm of pain. 15 minutes later. Once the beating was over, with Garrosh beaten and bloody, was over Naruto's shoulder as he and his slaves walked down the streets. They were on their way to throw the body into the hellfire pits where the demon could be tormented for what he has done. He didn't get off easy with Naruto and won't certainly ever again. Too busy screaming for mercy as his flesh and bones are burned away only to regrow again, making his pain endless. As they walked, though, Naruto kept giving small glances at Kushina, since he had been seeing her act weird lately. Strange actually, since she was usually a ball of energy most of the time. That's when he heard something. "The mister did it. He beat the big meanie," was the voice Naruto knew too well. Looking to his right, he saw the family of 5 Inu demons looking at him in either gratefulness from the parents, or the all looks from the children. That's when the youngest, a little female-looking Inu, ran over to him, her big black eyes wide in awe. She reached his leg and looked up at him with a smile on her face. Thank you, sir," she said before doing something shocking. She hugged his leg. This made Naruto freeze up, while Mito and Kushina looked worried at what would happen next. Their master, if anything, was cruel even to children sometimes, and his bloodlust from the little battle might not have been sated. So what if he? Only for the devil to slowly gaze down at the small Inu demon before he spoke tonelessly. "It is of no trouble. He simply deserved punishment for using my name for protecting for his actions, and that is all. Now go to your parents, little one," he said, causing the demon to look before giving a timid nod once she figured out what she had done before running back to her parents. Without pausing a second time, Naruto walked forth, followed by his 2 Uzumaki servants, though this action had been watched by both redheads, and one being Kushina, who watched this with a small smile on her face before she remembered her own child. Looking down at her belly, she rubbed it as a small tear fell from her eyes when she remembered all the time she spent with the unborn child, the one she gave birth to, only die on her same birth. Though she never saw the frown on Naruto's face as his eyes were set upon her at her action. Next day, Naruto's residence. It's been a day since their little outing at Helma and things have been very tense as of late. Mito noticed how Kushina was sometimes avoiding her and Naruto, and of how she was always silent around them. They both could tell something was wrong with her, but Naruto hadn't said a thing about it yet and told Mito when she asked him for help that to let it play out. For now. That is until night came did something happen. Tossing and turning in her bed, Kushina gripped her sheets as she whimpered ever so softly. Tears started to form in her clenched eyes as her lip trembled and quivered as the nightmares within her mind kept haunting her every second. Naruki-chan, no! Kushina screamed as she watched her unborn child be completely vaporized by the flowing yukai from Kyubi. Grasping her head with both hands, she shook her head only to see another scene of her one-day-old daughter. Her bright blue eyes glaze over as the chakra of the Kyubi became too much for her, and soon to Kushina's utmost horror Naruki's little eyes were soon devoid of any life. No, Naruki-chan, Naruki-chan. Naruki-chan. Her shrill scream echoing all in her room. Realizing what she did, she tried to cover it up only for her face to have tears going down them ever so rapidly. In his room, Naruto's purple eyes snapped open when he heard Kushina's scream and jumped out of his bed before bursting through his door. Upon getting to her door, he kicked it open only to see the sight of a sobbing Kushina. Walking over to her, he saw she was still asleep but was still muttering the name Naruki over and over. Grasping her shoulder, he shook her. Kushina, wake up. Gasping, she snapped open her eyes only to see the face of her master looking down at her with an impassive face. Kushina, what's wrong? His words made her look the other way before she pulled herself up and scooted away from him a bit. And nothing, Naruto-sama, though her horrified face said otherwise. Seeing he wouldn't get anywhere with his usual way of speaking, he spoke a bit more gently but still firmly while grasping her shoulder. Kushina, tell me what's wrong. The woman all but froze at his touch before the proverbial dam broke. His touch alone made her break down. Before Naruto knew it, Kushina was crying into his chest, her arms grasping his shirt as tightly as she could. Her tears and sobs soaking his shirt. Frozen at the sudden contact, he looked down at his sobbing red-headed slave and blinked. Well, this is awkward. Not seeing any other way to handle this, he awkwardly wrapped his arms around her. Though when he did so, he felt something in him beat a bit faster. He frowned at what it was and pushed it down. It was a strange feeling, but something he didn't want to feel right now. That's when he heard the door open. Glancing, he saw Mito walk in and saw her questioning gaze. Shrugging, she walked over and sat on the other side of Kushina and started to pat her back gently. Rubbing her back tenderly, she spoke, Kushi-chan, what's wrong? Only for her to keep crying into Naruto's chest. Seeing she wouldn't be talking for a bit, they all sat there waiting for her to calm down. It took a few minutes, but slowly and assuredly Kushina slowly got control of herself. Yet she was still in Naruto's arms. Pulling away a bit, she wiped her eyes from her red puffy eyes. I am sorry for that. Mito just rubbed her back as Naruto kept looking at her with a questioning gaze. It is of no trouble, Kushina. Now tell me what is wrong. Knowing she couldn't get out of this, she sighed. It's just I miss her. I miss my baby Naruto-sama, my daughter, my muse, my Naruki-chan. Every time I go to sleep, I have nightmares of her little baby form dead in so many ways. They won't quit haunting me, and it's starting to tear me apart. She finished before closing her eyes to hide the tears. Mito just looked at her with a sad look in her eyes. Naruto himself frowned before sighing in a bit of irritation. I see, I was afraid of this. Well, you see, Kushina, the reason you're like this is because you didn't live a full life. Unlike Mito here, who lived a good century and 20 years. You died a young life as a newly first mother, a way that is quite possibly the worst way to die. So it's no surprise you're being haunted by visions from your previous life, he said, looking at Kushina with curious eye. It also makes it a bit worse that you have these dreams since you feel you have no one you truly believe will help her. This is what happens when mortals don't live to their fullest and die so early on, which made Kushina look down sadly, knowing she had died so early on the day of her daughter's birth. But what I'm curious about is that Kushina is the subject of her being a Jinchuriki, a secret. Which Kushina just nodded, her head still laid upon Naruto's chest, feeling the slightest comfort and warmth from him. Yes, it is a well-kept secret that she is a Jinchuriki. That is how I and Mito's position was kept secret. It was never told of what we contained. Naruto nodded at this. I see, then your daughter, she should be okay. If the secret is kept safe, then she should be living a partial normal life, and if she inherited your luck, her life might be better in the future. So there is no need to worry, Kushina, which the woman begrudgingly nodded before falling asleep in Naruto's arms. Seeing this made Naruto feel in an even more awkward position and looked to Mito. Giggling at his almost nervous expression, she got up before she helped Naruto set her back to sleep. After seeing she was fine, they walked out of the room, Mito still giving her form a sad look before she walked out first. As Naruto himself walked out, closing the door, his eyes gave her form one glance with a look in his eyes that showed something. Something none one would see in his eyes ever. It was sadness. Then he closed the door, not knowing this event would be the chain reaction to churn the three realms forever. But later on, even with her state of being helped by Mito and her beloved master, the force of not seeing her daughter came back to her, and, in much more force than ever before. Though she hid it best she could, it was slowly getting harder each passing day. Just seeing her little daughter dead and, now, ways of calling out her kept haunting her even more. Now, though it finally got to her, and she needed help and she needed it now, she wanted to get rid of the nightmares which haunt her at every turn. So it was a great surprise that as Naruto and Mito were training on the outskirts of Naruto's residence, did Kushina come out of the forest with a very nervous look in her eyes. Naruto rose an eyebrow at her as Mito blinked before speaking. "Hey Kushi-chan, is something the matter?" Which the red-haired woman just stopped in her tracks only this time. She stood right in front of Naruto, her head down as her shoulders shook, her hands were clenched so hard they were cracking and popping under the pressure. "And Naruto-sama, I know I've been acting strange lately, but it has been somewhat a strange thing for me to say. It's just that I want to see her, I want to see my child so much, I miss her so dearly." She shouted the last word before falling to her knees before her master. Knowing what she was doing was shameful, so shameful, and especially of her master, but she just couldn't help it anymore. She missed her baby, her little daughter, her Naruki-chan. She wanted to see her, hug her, anything to just see her. Naruto kept his gaze on Kushina as Mito slowly closed her eyes with a sad smile on her face came up. That's what's been bothering her, why didn't she see it? She thought Kushina had gotten past it already, but looking at her master, though, she could see the hesitant look in his eyes as he thought up of how he should answer her. "I see you wish to see her? Is that correct?" Kushina only nodded, not wanting to look up. But Naruto didn't have any of that, so with a slow kneel he cupped her chin and pulled her face up, slowly showing her tear-stricken face, her eyes glistening wet as tears fell from her eyes. Her lip trembled and quivered each second. "Is that what you want, Kushina?" Which the woman just broke down even further before she spoke. "Yes. I want to see my baby. Damn it!" Before she slammed her face into his chest. Hearing her answer, he sighed before giving Mito a glance, to which she nodded. "Very well, then I can do that. I can't take you to her, but I can show you how she's doing at the moment," which Kushina, who at the moment was in Mito's arms, just nodded. "Yes, that's fine, I just want to see if my baby is okay." Her voice strained to the max as her eyes were cast down in shame for doing what she did. She just couldn't control it anymore. She wanted to see her child, but to break down, cry and yell at her master. She felt so horrible and disappointed with herself that she only in her sister figure's arms did she feel better. "I see, understandable. I was actually predicting you would ask this, but I just waited for you to ask. Anyway, here we go with that." Naruto mumbled a few words before speaking. "Akuma no Yona Majiku, Hyoji Mera, Demon Magic, Viewing Mirror." With that, Naruto opened up a big-sized mirror which viewed the life of the one he wanted to know. He predicted many things when it showed Kushina's daughter. He predicted her living a somewhat normal life, a life where she was protected even. He was dead wrong. For when he opened the mirror, hell would forever be shaken to its core. "Ah! Stop it! Leave me alone!" was the female childlike cries of the little blonde red-haired girl in the mirror. Her pleas for mercy unheard as the people attacking her didn't stop. The girl was at the age of 5 and had long golden with red streaked hair. She wore nothing but rags and had 3 whisker marks on each sides of her face. Her eyes were that of the purest blue. It was like staring into an ocean. Though her body looked malnourished beyond possibility, wounds and injuries could be seen among other things. Her face itself was bleeding as tears freely roamed down her pudgy face. "No! Demon scum! You'll pay for you've done! Feel the pain from your betters!" shouted a drunk shinobi as civilian and shinobi alike beat and abused the little child. Beer bottles, weapons, kunai, saman, shuriken, and worst of all, katanas. The three all watched this in emotions going throughout their bodies. Mito was trembling in anger, sadness, and most of all hate. Her form trembled and shook as tears fell from her furious eyes as her shoulders and arms shook with each passing hit that was upon the little child. Kushina herself was more on the verge of a breakdown. Her face was formed into the shape of horror and anger mixed in. Her eyes were glistening in anger yet terror for the child. Her arms were wrapped around herself as she watched the scene of the little girl, her own daughter, be tortured. Her daughter's pleas for mercy rang through her as clear as day. She felt so horrible she wasn't there to help her, keep her safe like a mother should, and tell her it was okay. By Kami, I'm the worst mother. Naruto himself, though, was acting strange. His eyes were full on the scene with a strange look in his eyes as his right hand trembled and twitched every so often. His mouth twitched a bit like he was about to growl or snarl something bad. He slowly, ever so slowly, raised his right hand and looked between it and the child in the mirror. Kushina, isn't the secret of being a Jinchuriki supposed to be kept secret? Which he got his answer from Kushina when she all but nodded. Then what the hell am I seeing? His words so cold that it made the two involuntarily shiver. With that, he looked at his right hand once more. The hand that touched Kushina's swollen, pregnant belly. The same one that felt the many excited kicks from the unborn child. The same one that rubbed and played the little touch and kick game the child acted. He looked upon the child once more to see her tears pouring from her eyes, her pleas of mercy, her cries of pain, her yells of anguish. With that, Naruto's right hand quickly clenched as he looked up at the red sky of hell and spoke. Do you see it now, Kami? Are you that blind or ignorant of your creations? Your precious mortals, look at what they are doing to their savior. They are torturing her, a child, an innocent soul with not a touch of sin in her body. If you won't do something about this, he said as his eyes glowed purple as the ground beneath his cracked and shook. Kushina and Mito looked upon him in confusion as his Yukai energy was rising. And fast. Somebody help me. Please! Was the final pleas from Naruki. The choked back sobs of Mito, the cries and mutters of Kushina finally set him off. Like a damn bomb. His eyes then gained an even more sinister glow before his mouth formed into a demonic snarl as his body just flashed with his rising energies. Then I will. For those pathetic fools do not deserve such a gift. Within Naruto broke. An ancient feeling of power rose up into Naruto. His eyes glowed and flashed purple, showing no sign of pupils before the thin sign of a demonic slit for a pupil formed in his eyes. His body erupted in just pure black Yukai with purple streaks here and there, his body hidden from sight, and those of his two worried slaves. All across hell, many could feel the massive Yukai energy build up, for it was just too gigantic to ignore. The sudden explosion of pure black and purple streaked Yukai which erupted into the skies of hell itself could be seen by all of hell. The massive ball of Yukai, which got bigger and bigger by each second, made a few so uneasy they would lose control of their bladders or just die from the sudden expulsion of such Yukai. The ground shook, the mountains trembled and crumbled, the sea of blood itself boiled, the sky itself looked as if it was about to shatter all on them. That's when all that Yukai, all that power that was just so unimaginable, just condensed, making the ball of energy shrink further and further as the wild and chaotic demonic energy now did something even more terrifying. It got stronger, passing the demonic titans themselves in power. It towered over all in hell, making many just feel like an insect in comparison. That's when many saw it. A giant shadow loomed all over hell, the source of it being exactly where the explosion occurred. Only when its form shifted and showed its true appearance did many freeze in petrifying terror. For in front of them all was a crimsonite apparition, it being passing the red sky itself looming over hell. It could be seen that the apparition was demonic in nature. No, demonic isn't the right word. What is the right word is hellish, nightmaringly terrifying. It had a maw filled with glowing purple giant razor-sharp teeth which seemed to look as if it could tear through the hardest of divine metal. Curved horns stuck out of its head going past its forehead in a curved pattern. The wings of this thing were massive, they all but overshadowed hell, the sea of blood, even the mountains themselves. But the eyes, oh Kami, the eyes, it was like staring into the eyes of a wrathful god. The avatar of death looked to be just within those very eyes. They glowed crimson yet was so full of bloodlust and vengeance that it made many want to actually pray to Kami herself for forgiveness. Deep within a castle, Lucifer himself sensed a very powerful, even godlike energy explosion. Looking out, he saw the one thing that made him scowl. "This is your doing, isn't Hellwing?" he said, spitting out the name like it was pure venom. That's when he heard the sound of someone walking from behind him. So this is Naruto's power, Lucifer? You never told me he was this powerful, was the seductive voice of Lilith. Her purple-skinned body imperfect as her seductive smile that could make any mortal man just bow before her. Her eyes glistened in excitement yet curiosity, as her set upon the apparition that which loomed over the castle itself. Grunting, Lucifer spoke. "He's been hiding this from me all this time. All our battles, all our fights, he's held back against me. How dare he!" He yelled as his own demonic energy blasted from him. Lilith herself just stayed where she was as her eyes danced with amusement at Lucifer's outrage. Though her eyes did shift once more to the apparition, and she licked her lips as her body trembled and shivered in excitement. I wonder how our first meeting will be, Hellwing. Explosion sight. Kushina and Mito both looked on at the apparition that appeared in the sky with something akin to fear yet amazement as they beheld the sight before them. The power, It was so amazing it rose up above the demon titans, and they were pretty sure by now was up to par with the deities. Though that's when the apparition started to shrink. It condensed smaller and smaller until it got all the way down into the crater. The crater itself looked as if you could place the sea of blood itself within. It was enormous. Only when the apparition reached the very bottom did they see what become of their master. And they did somewhat, for his figure looked shadowy at best, but it struck fear into their hearts when they saw the demonic glowing purple eyes of the shadow loom onto them. Their breath hitched when its gaze fell upon them. They truly felt like nothing to this being. This power was so monstrous. That's when the shadow itself sinked into Naruto's body, showing their master in all his glory, but the wrathful look in his eyes and the power behind them and coming off his body showed something happened within him. Something ancient, something powerful awoke and made him snap. His power was at least tenfold of what his was before. It was like the proverbial dam that held back his true power cracked and broke after being hit with its last hit. His body was just seeping out yukai, and waves upon waves of his power came off of him. His clothes blew in the wind as did his hair. The purple glow of his eyes flashed with so much anger that it made the two flinch. Kushina-mito, it's time we paid a little visit to Ninjenkai. The demonic tone in his voice made them both shiver in what they didn't know, but there was one thing that was for sure. Their master was beyond irritated now. They have never ever seen him so angry before. But now his eyes just glowed in many emotions that was shocking to be in the eyes of such an unemotional devil. There was many emotions they saw, anger, hate, vengeance, but the noticeable of all was wrath, pure wrathful fury that of any could bring forth. But when they remembered the words he spoke, they stood up still, a bit shaken at the state of their master, and jumped to his side. "Why yes, Naruto-sama," they uttered, stiffly nodding. Naruto just snapped his fingers before a crimson demonic circle appeared below them. The demonic language too difficult for either of them to even comprehend, and right then they were enveloped from below by a reddish glow as the flames of hellfire erupted around them. Soon their bodies were fully covered before they all sunk into the circle, disappearing along with the circle itself, leaving a giant cratered yukai-infested land. Ninjenkai Kanahigaku no Sado. Running on the streets on Konoha on her small legs was Naruki, her fear-stricken face with tears running down her eyes. Mobs upon mobs of civilian and shinobi alike chasing her down with insane grins upon their face with a murderous look in their eyes. Many wielded weapons of all kinds, many were just in pure glee at being able to hurt the demon. Running around a corner, she slowed her pace to catch her breath. Blood fell from her arms and legs as tears fell on the cement ground. Why her? Why was she the one bearing this kind of injustice? It was so painful not having any parents to keep her safe, protected, being alone as she was with her only friend being the voice inside her head. Why, what have I done? Why? Her childish voice strained from all the painful screaming she's done, from the beatings she's gotten from the people of the village she lived in. Hey, I found the demon! This way! Her eyes widened in terror before looking back to see the running mob, and right then turned around and ran as fast as she could, hoping and praying she could get away with not getting injured badly this time. Unluckily, fate wasn't on her side, for when she ran into the main street of Konoha was her eyes snapping open in horror. For all around her was the many mobs of armed civilians and shinobi alike, all wearing that same sick grin. Looking back, hoping for an escape, she saw to her fading hope that the mob chasing her had surrounded her as well. Quivering a bit, she did the only thing she could do, or of what she only knew what to do. And that was to get on the ground and huddle, hoping the beating would end. Tears fell from her eyes when she heard the many advancing footsteps of the giant mob and their plans to make her scream. Huddling even more, she whimpered, "Someone, anyone help me, please." Her prayer in some way was answered when she heard the many gasps from the mob, and after a while, not feeling any pain, she opened her eyes slightly to see something amazing before her, for below her was the slight reddish glow of something she couldn't identify. Akemi within her mind suddenly gasped. "My Kami-sama, this is a teleportation circle used by only those of the strongest of demons." Akemi-ne-chan? Akemi didn't get to answer her, for the shouts of outrage from the populace rang in her ears. "The demon! It's doing something, quick, kill it! Hurry!" And the shinobi did, or at least tried to, only for them, to the growing horror of many. Upon getting within an inch inside the faintly glowing red circle, did their bodies suddenly combust in strangely colored flames as their screams erupted from their mouths, echoing all around Konoha. Their flesh melted, as did their eyes. Their bones turned to nothing but dust and ash. Wow, was Naruki's amazed thought as she watched her attacker only be killed before her eyes in the most, in her eyes, breathtaking way possible. What none saw, though, was that the sky itself was turned blood red in color as black lightning started to dance across the sky. The reddish circle around Naruki glowed even more before it started to show strange runes and language none could even hope to decipher. What's happening was the words of a terrified civilian. He never got his answer since the sound of static could be heard before. To all of their horror and Naruki's growing amazement did the ground start to tremble and shake like a coming earthquake, making many buildings fall and crumble and civilians all but fall deep within the cracks made by the shaking. That is when they thought it was over, was when the same fires that killed the two shinobi suddenly erupted from the cracks, incinerating any that were near the cracks on the ground. Buildings also randomly started to implode in a hellfire blaze, that which lit up the now waking village of Konoha. Only then, when the sound of lightning, did one person look up only to scream. What the? The sky, it's red. Many looked up to indeed to their fears see a blood-red sky filled with pitch-black lightning. Naruki looked at the sky in awe before she heard something from behind her. Slowly looking behind, she saw something which looked like that strange fire start to rise. That's when, to the awe of Naruki and Akemi's tense silence, did these three sparks of hellfire suddenly open up before the sounds of many upon many bats filled the air, getting the attention of the crowd. Following the bats that circled where they came out of in a column, did a red light come out of all three fire holes. That's when, to the horror and fear of the crowd, did the one thing none expected to come out. It was humanoid shapes. Of what seemed to be humans, that which were covered in bats from head to toe. The taller of the two only a foot away from Naruki. When they all came out completely did the bat skin crack with crimson lines which glowed faintly. The cracks got more frequent before suddenly the crowd was blown back into the air and yards away from where they stood. Only strangely enough, Naruki was still where she was, her eyes wide and filled with awe and wonder at what she was seeing. For she was seeing two of the most prettiest ladies she's ever saw. Their red hair looked so soft and silky she wanted to touch it. The one, though, with longer red hair was strangely smiling at her. No way, if they're here then that means. Naruki heard her but turned her gaze at the last person that stood right in front of her. His imposing statue made her shiver. His glowing purple eyes were looking all on Konoha, making her just think Konoha would just implode by his gaze alone. She wondered though who these people were and if they were also gonna hurt her. The thought made her tremble. Naruto himself, after looking around Konoha in just pure distaste, did give a glance down at Naruki, making her break into a shaking mess. When he saw the wounds and blood on her body, made him clench his fist tighter before he looked up at all the squirming humans before him. He could smell their fear, their hatred, and, to his disgust, the disgusting smell of urine. The fools all but soiled themselves? Pathetic. Child, his words echoing all around the area. Naruki hesitantly looked up at him, seeing his imposing figure. Why, yes, sir? Naruto just walked past her and spoke. Go to your mother, you two have been separated long enough and your reunion has been long overdue. His words made her go wide-eyed before he looked back to see Kushina smiling at her. Tears were falling from her eyes as were Naruki's. Keika-san? Her voice in nothing more than a quiver of hope, hoping what she was seeing was true and not one of her many dreams and not a false reality. Kushina smiled warmly at Naruki before she crouched down and spread out her arms. Naruki-chan, come here. That's all the little girl needed before she ran to Kushina and practically jumped into her arms before bursting into tears. Ka-san, you're here. She could tell, even if she never met her mother before, that this woman was her mother. She could feel it deep within her. This pretty woman was her mother. Kushina just let a lone tear fall from her eye as she held Naruki in her arms. Mito kneeled beside her and smiled at the family reunion. That is until she and Naruto heard the humans getting their bearings once more. Who are you? And why are you helping that demon? Shouted a shinobi. Mito just glared immortal before Naruto himself just gave the man a glance before speaking. I do not speak with the likes of your kind. Now die like the pathetic, filthy mortal you are. With that, Naruto pointed his hand outward at the mob of shinobi and civilian alike and spoke. Kushina, stay with her. Mito, stay with them. Who knows when heaven's forces will be here? As darkness started to shroud his stretched out arm. Sensing he wouldn't take a no like she would give him a no anyways, nodded and stayed by Kushina and Naruki's side. Besides, she could feel that Naruto wanted to release some pent-up anger. It was always such a good show when her master always kills. Good, then now let the slaughter begin. With that, he gave a glance at the terrified mob and snarled. Dai Bakuhatsu no Yami no Bakudan, exploding darkness bomb. With that, the event which would be counted in history as the most bloodiest of massacres commenced. A orb of darkness shot from Naruto's hand and right at the mob of humans, shinobi and civilian alike. Clan members or council members. All were obliterated in a monstrous wave of pure darkness. The wave consumed all in its path, taking multiple buildings along with part of its walls. The blast was so enormous it gained the attention of every shinobi in Konoha, which all raced to where it came from. Naruki though watched what she dubbed Naruto as the scary man did and was in a state of awe. Kushina just smiled and held her daughter closer when she saw her eyes at the scene of what Naruto had just done. For before Naruto's outstretched hand was a mob of civilians was nothing more than ash. A giant trench of the explosion's size showed stretching on for miles to miles on end. Spitting on the ground, Naruto's face contorted into plain disgust before he just turned around and spoke. "Quit your hiding and come on out, you pathetic ninja." And so with that, all around Naruto did multiple shadows of shinobi pop out, many jounin and umbu. The numbers were quite many, but to him, it wasn't even a warm-up. Taking a step forward, he spoke as his demonic aura flared from all around him, cracking the ground and shattering the building walls around him. Let this be put into the history books. Let all of Ninjenkai and heaven itself know that Konohagakure no Sato has its first ever massacre. With that, Naruto all but jumped at the shocked shinobi. They never saw what came next. Grasping one shinobi's head, he let out a snarl before snapping it. His snarl turned into a cruel cold smirk when he saw the terror-widened eyes. He looked at the charging shinobi and grunted. Twisting the head even more, he ripped it off, spraying blood like a fountain all over the approaching shinobi before he planted the disembodied head into a sneaking from behind him shinobi into the face, shattering his mask, and practically with just force alone fused the head into the other's cracking and shattering skulls. Spinning around, slammed his foot into the ground before cracks came from the ground and, to many of their horror, hellfire suddenly shot up, incinerating them along with buildings around them. Pointing his right hand out in a strange position, he spoke. Haru, Titan no Kabushi, Hellfire, Titan's fist, and to the horror of many, a giant hellfire titan-sized fist formed over Konoha's civilian district. It being the size of Kyubi herself. Once it touched the ground, half of Konoha's village was destroyed by a massive explosion of hellfire. The ball of flame evaporated and destroyed all it touched. None were spared, children, civilian or shinobi. All were killed, none were spared. Men, women and children alike were not spared his wrath. Soon the corpses of the dead littered the ground, while some were screaming as their flays melted from their body from the intense heat. "Wow, Naruto-sama isn't pulling any punches," Mito said as she watched the fiery ball of doom light up the blood-red sky. She watched as Naruto just gave a cold chortle as he butchered more vengeful shinobi. Kushina just nodded as Naruki kept her gaze on Naruto's form in what seemed like some kind of remembrance of some sort. His cloak billowing in the wind and smoke, Naruto's glowing malevolent eyes cut through the smoke of fire and sulfur like butter. Around him were multiple mutilated bodies of shinobi dead in their own way. The sound of dripping was heard, for upon Naruto's outstretched hand was a dead body of a Uchiha hanging off his arm. His hand shot through his skull. Waving his arm, he slid off the Uchiha before looking to his right. Another force of shinobi, foolish. With that, he faced his to the right and spoke. Akuma Majiku, Jigaku no Kakakushu, demon magic, skeletal hands of hell, and before the awe and amazement of the Uzumakis behind him did a rupture upon the ground crack open. Right then a group of shinobi appeared above it. Naruto smirked as he watched their faces form from hate and anger to horror and fear as skeletal hands coated in flames of hell shot out, pulled them down, formed the air and into the rupture. Ah! The fire, ah! Oh sweet Kami, the pain! Ah! What are these things? Wait, no! The last one silenced via by the bone hand crushing his skull in. Naruto just smirked cruelly and relished in the sounds of the humans' scream and pleas of mercy as their flesh and bones burned and turned to ash by the fires of hell. He watched them be pulled into the rupture with satisfaction in his eyes. That is when he sensed to his ire another forcing coming from his left, only a chakra signature higher than the others were with them. Bursting out of the streets were shinobi upon shinobi, leading them were umbu of the highest level, and before them were the shinobi clan heads of Konoha. Finally was the one that made Mito have a twitch in the eyebrow. It was Senju Tsunade, granddaughter of Tobarama Senju and Godame Hokage of Konohagakure. Her amber eyes were filled with anger and distaste at the being before them who had destroyed so much of their village. With her were the clan heads of every clan in Konoha garbed and ready for battle, though Naruto just ignored their presence and spoke. Pathetic, if this is how strong Ninjenkai has to offer, then I'm sorely disappointed, his uncaring gaze shifting back to his normal uncaring one. This seemed to irritate the shinobi that were ignored by him, and Tsunade spoke on their behalf. Who are you? And why have you done this? Which Naruto just gave her a glance, but it was enough to send her into hysterics when his purple demonic eyes set its gaze upon her. Soon an overwhelming feeling of pure demonic energy washed over her, making her shiver in petrifying terror. Snarling at how pathetic the woman was, he turned around, raised his hand up into the air. Pathetic mortals witnessed the very bringer of your home's slaughter before looking over his shoulder, showing his glowing slitted eye. Before anyone could say anything or utter a single word, Naruto spoke. Haru, Buraijinguri Yusei Shawa, Hellfire, Blazing Meteor Shower. Right then all watched as the loud rumbling sound could be heard. Looking around, they suddenly looked up to see to the Konoha shinobi's horror and Tsunade's terror hellfire engulfed meteors coming down on them, they being the size of medium-sized buildings. Grinning at their terror, he walked back to Mito and Kushina as Naruki was still being held in Kushina's arms, but her eyes were glued upon the sky in pure awe. Watch Konoha shall burn, let this be a sign for all of Ninjenkai. His demonic words made Naruki snap out of her stupor and look up at Naruto's form, but when she did, she never felt a pang of hurt come to her head before a flash blinded her vision. What she saw was Naruto kneeling over Kushina, his hand rubbing over her stomach. His purple eyes shined in a somewhat amused light. She looked upon him, memorizing his eyes and face before the light dissipated before showing she was back where she was before, in the arms of her revealed mother. When she looked back up at Naruto, who at the moment was watching in great pleasure of the mortals before him scream and yell in fear, Mito walked up beside him and spoke with her eyes glaring at Tsunade. Naruto-sama, allow me to handle these fools. He just gave her a glance and nodded before disappeared in nothing but a blur. Appearing in front of the shinobi, she slammed her foot into the ground, shaking the area while making a few shinobi stumble, but it did get the attention of all of them. Though when they saw her, many went gobsmacked, or in Tsunade's case, into complete shock. And Mito-sama? Her voice showing shock yet awe for seeing the legendary woman herself. Mito just cast a glance to Tsunade before sneering. Don't Mito-sama me send you. I can already guess what you've done, Tsunade, as your time as Hokage, and to do such things to Naruki you're as low as your pathetic family. Her words full of venom, since she could tell that Tsunade had done something to reveal Naruki was the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi no Kitsune, which led to her being abused and hated. Tsunade flinched at her words and tried to speak, only to be silenced via Mito appearing in front of her, with her being held in the air by Mito's hand wrapped around her neck in a steel-like grip. Her feet dangled off the ground as she tried to desperately lessen the grip, only for Mito to grip tighter. Now Senju, watch Master's work on your pitiful village. Watch as your foolish family's creation is reduced to nothing more than a smoldering crater. With that, she turned Tsunade in the direction of the blazing meteors and made her watch in horror as the flaming rocks came upon impact with the ground. Boom! Konoha lit up like a Christmas tree as multiple spheres of hellfire sprouted all, and Konoha destroyed it, and killing all in its wake. Screams could be heard as civilians and shinobi alike ran around, their bodies lit on fire, with them too falling on the ground, leaving nothing behind but ash. Buildings were nothing but dust in the wind, leaving nothing but smoldering dirt. Ash, dust, and smoke blew in the wind as the echoes of screams and yells of humans rang through Konoha, as well as the cries of children. Tsunade watched it all as tears fell from her eyes before Mito uncaringly threw her into a building, with it collapsing all on her. With that done, she spat on the ground before turning to her master and walked to his location. The shinobi that watched the scene just saw red and charged in blind fury, only to make their last mistake. Fools! Akuma Majiku, Suru Sheisei Doriganzu, demon magic, soul-eating dragons, and to the horror of the shinobi, a dark circle appeared behind Mito, and in a blink, multiple black dragons shot out with their maws wide open. Too late to react, their mouths flew open in a silent scream as the dragons shot onto them. Never breaking stride, she walked over to the others and bowed her head at Naruto, which he just nodded before she got Kushina's side once more. Naruto himself looked around, seeing no others coming for them. Then suddenly he looked up in the sky and frowned. So they send him quite desperate they are. They heard his words and looked at him questioningly before they saw him looking up. Doing the same thing, Naruki gasped, as did Kushina and Mito. For a bright hole opened up, splitting up the crimson sky before a figure could be seen floating down. Naruto just frowned when he was confirmed of who it was. When it was clear to see who it was a man. He was tall, around the 6 feet 5 inches stature, but everything else was cloaked under a massive black cloak, with ripped ends at the end. His face as well was covered with only his glowing white eyes shone with themselves, showing boredom. But the real eye-catcher was the angelic wings upon his back. They were spread out in a 15-foot span, with them being a dull gray in color. Finally was the giant Zanbato strapped to his back. Naruto merely stared at the being and spoke. So Kami sends her best of the best when she can barely even keep her own creations in check, isn't that right, Abaddon? His tone changing to a more demonic tone. Said man just looked upon him, his eyes changing from boredom to a joyful yet curious look. Hellwing? Haha. It's been millennia. How are you? Naruto just shook his head at the man's choice of words. His two slaves and Naruki watched on in curiosity. You never change, but then again you wouldn't be a Baden if you had, which made a glowing white smirk appear on the shadowed man's face. As have you causing trouble, have we? This made Naruto roll his eyes, that is until the man's cloaked figure tensed and spoke in a more serious tone. Now what have you done this time to enact the wrath of the deities as a whole this time? Which Naruto just waved off his question in a non-nonchalant manner. Nothing really, just doing a little clean up pathetic humans here and there, which made the man's eyes narrow. You mean slaughter like this, right? Gesturing at Konoha's smoldering form, shrugging, Naruto gave an uncaring glance. Yeah, you can call it that if you want. I have seen enough of these pathetic humans to know they just aren't worth living. They're nothing but sinful beings of the highest order. You know that as well as I. Abaddon, the man just shook his head in exasperation. True, I will not deny it, but you have angered the court of Kami with this action, Naruto, for you have the child of prophecy in your grasp, and that is something Kami cannot let continue, which Naruto just grunted. Like I care what she thinks. If she's just gonna stand up there and sit upon her throne and watch as a child is beaten, then no, I'll do whatever I like, and I'd like to see anyone trying to stop me, whether they be God or not. His voice gaining a much colder, aggressive tone. None of which Mito and Kushina had ever heard before. Abaddon himself eyed Naruto with a solemn look before he grasped his Zanbato. Then you give me no choice for angering the deities and upsetting the court of Kami. I am ordered to kill you, Hellwing Naruto. Said Devil just gained a grave look and shook his head. You are a fool. With that, Abaddon disappeared along did Naruto. Then it was like a deadly silence filled the area, and before anyone could utter a word, clang! Naruto and Abaddon appeared in the air with the Zanbato being blocked by Naruto's no Daichi. They disappeared once more in godly speeds before they appeared once more on the ground, another resulting clash uprooting trees before setting them ablaze. Leaning to the left, Naruto dodged a swipe before giving Abaddon a quick slash across his chest, giving a long gash on his cloak. Said Angel just grunted, but before he could retaliate, Naruto was on him even more with much more aggression he thought possible. Moving to the right, he dodged a stab before he felt pain in his stomach. Looking down, he saw Naruto's fist embedded into his stomach. You've gotten slow with those words. Naruto pulled his fist back, making Abaddon hold his stomach in pain, and before the angel could gain his breath, Naruto brought his no Daichi out and crouched with his weapon being held in a firm grip. Seeing what Naruto was about to do, Abaddon cursed. Now I end this with that in but a mere flash. Naruto appeared behind the angel, his weapon outstretched in a manner indicating it was swung. With that, he stood back up and let his no Daichi disappeared in a pillar of hellfire. Abaddon stood there before in a blink. Multiple gashes appeared on his cloak as his Zanbato itself broke in two. What the you were never this strong before. His words came out in a strained tone. Naruto heard his words but ignored them before walking up to him. Grasping his cloak, he spoke with his other hand glowing in a dark aura. Now go deliver this as a message to Kami and those other fools. If they come after me again, I will make Ninjenkai my own personal underworld. Now be gone from my sight and become stronger. You've become weak. With that, he threw him into the air before disappearing. Before reappearing in front of Abaddon's suspended body spinning around, he delivered a bone-breaking kick to his ribs. Hearing an audible crack and grunt of pain from him, the angel was sent flying through the air and into the high no Kuni forests, passing through trees at speeds none could possibly comprehend. Seeing him out of the way, Naruto vanished and appeared in front of the three Uzumakis and grunted. Now let us go. I tire of this place, and the child needs some food before she dies of starvation. Nodding at his assumption, they all stood up with Naruki held gently in Kushina's arm, but her eyes were still on Naruto's form in akin to awe. Mito looked at her master and still remembered how he talked with the angel in a somewhat friendly manner, thus made her very curious. You Naruto-sama, if I may, who was that man? Which the devil just snapped his fingers, making a portal appear as he spoke. He is Kami's strongest of her angels, going beyond that of the Crusader Legion. He in a sense Kami's bounty hunter. He is the Archangel Abaddon, and at one time a fellow acquaintance, but he has let his skills get rusty. That made her raise an eyebrow but didn't push any further, knowing it was her master's past, and she didn't need to know too much. With that, all four of them walked through the portal, never to see Ninjenkai for quite a long time. Walking out of the dark portal, the party of four walked out from Ninjenkai. Leading them all was Hellwing Naruto himself. A perpetual emotionless face portrayed upon his masculine pale face. Beside him was Kushina, his second slave, holding a sleeping Naruki in her arms. Her purple eyes seemed to just radiate love and affection for the girl. Mito on his left was looking at the now joined together family. Glancing at her master, she gave him a thankful smile. Naruto felt Mito's gaze on him and looked to his left to see her smiling at him. Rolling his eyes at that, he grunted before moving forward. As he did so, he gave an ever discreet glance at Kushina smothering the little child and couldn't help but feel a small jolt of something strike at his black heart. What it was he didn't know, but He was assuring himself it wasn't anything of what he thought it was. Narrowing his eyes, though, he did feel the accumulation of yokai gathering around Naruki and knew they needed to hurry before the child suffered from the drawbacks of being in hell, and, looking around the area of where his outpost and house used to be, he mentally scowled. Looking over at the Uzumakis, he spoke, "Mito, Kushina, come, we must hurry before the yokai affects her. Since the residence is destroyed, we'll be going to my secondary base of operations." He received confused glances from the two women as the little 5-year-old girl just snuggled more into her mother's warmth. "Naruto-sama, not to sound rude, but where is this other home?" Mito asked, which her devil master just gave her a glance before snapping his fingers, creating a portal once more. Walking toward it, followed by the two, he spoke, "It is located near the volcano of Unmei Doom. Once there, we shall go into the house where we can begin Naruki's transformation." Kushina and Mito nodded at this, knowing the only way for Naruki to live in hell, if she was to be doing so, was to become a demon. They both knew this and didn't quite care. Humanity was all but a disgusting term to them. They honestly couldn't be happier to have chosen the life they had now, especially Kushina, as she held her little museum in her arms once again. Though what none saw or sensed for that matter was a pair of eyes watching them with pure disgust and hatred for the three devils. Cliffside of the volcano. Stepping out of the portal, Naruto and the group came upon the cliff of one giant volcano, one where the very peak itself reached past the dark blood clouds itself. The two seemed to be marveled at the sight as lava seemed to run down its out shells, somehow separated from the cliffside itself. "Mito, Kushina, stop standing and hurry up!" Naruto's voice shook them of their stupors and rushed toward him. Kushina, while following her master, looked down at Naruki only to see, to her growing horror, her face scrunched up like she was in some sort of pain. The whimpering didn't help it either. Naruto seemed to have heard the small whimpers and appeared beside Kushina with an impatient look in his eyes. "Damn it, the effect of the yokai is spreading faster than I thought. I'm gonna need to improvise," he said before taking Naruki from Kushina's shocked form. Then he looked at both Kushina and Mito. "Follow me." With that, he shot off deep into a cavern within the volcano. Without a second of hesitation, they followed him in. Not knowing what their master was going to do, they never did see a shadow of a being within the darkened cliffside. Within the cavern, Kushina and Mito had both caught up to their master, only to see him standing in a runic circle similar to the ones he used on them, only this one being written differently this time. The other thing that was different, that instead of a dead body in the center of the ceiling circle was Naruto himself holding the little girl in his arms. His yokai seemed to slowly seep out of him and into the runes in the arcanic circle. His eyes seemed to glow ever so slowly as his hands held the trembling Naruki. Casting his gaze at the two worried slaves, he spoke in a slightly demonic tone, "Kushina, Mito, things are gonna have to be done differently with the girl's case. It would seem the Biju's yokai within her, and the infinite amount of yokai and Mikai, is slowly tearing her apart on the inside. Her soul itself is being corrupted and soon will either die or she would become nothing more than a bloodthirsty demon." Kushina, hearing this, almost burst into tears. Seeing this, he spoke before she could interrupt him, "Do not worry, though, I have another way to fix this, but I will say Naruki won't be human any longer and will become a devil like we are. To counterbalance the yokai coming from within her, and the one outside pushing into her, I will need to infuse not only my own yokai into her but my own blood as well. For you see, the power of the yokai I give her would literally tear her apart, no questions asked, but if I were to override her human genes with my blood, it will change her in a devil like myself. Thus her body would survive the transfer." Hearing this, they both had to nod at that.